Welcome in. It is Monday afternoon. Thank you for joining us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Carlene Bragg is here in studio. How are you doing?
Hi, Nick. We're here.
We are here. I said Monday. It doesn't feel like Monday.
I don't know what day it is.
I don't know what day.
I don't know which way is up.
Meteorologist Becca Bursall is also here. Becca, do you know what day it is?
I don't know. Yesterday at one point we were like on hour 9 and Chris and I looked at each other and we were like, how long have we been here?
It was because of ice storm. We were here as this stuff was moving in. I was here Saturday. It was definitely in a weekend. It was definitely a weekend. So folks got up this morning. I honestly did not know what to, I've been watching, but I didn't know what to expect. You don't really know what's out there until you get out there. I saw a lot of slush this morning, especially in the neighborhood.
So much slush. Yes, everything is melting right now. The worry as we go into the next 12 to 24 hours is because we're going to get so cold that everything is going to be freezing, create some black ice concerns and whatnot. Last night when I went to bed, I took my dog out and I wanted to see what the ice had done, and all my patio furniture was just frozen completely. It was something else. So it was a very cold start this morning, but we've got sunshine out. I actually did go on a walk with my dog today, and I had all the snow gear out there because it's so slushy. But we're in the process of melting. Temperatures are warming up above freezing, so if you're headed out this afternoon or maybe you're just staying home, it's certainly cold out there, but at least we're getting treated to some sunshine. Now, over the next 24 hours, we're going to be seeing some of the coldest air that we've been seeing since 2024. We'll be dropping close to about 11 degrees, with outside areas in the Charlotte metro falling into the single digits. We're also looking at our next chance of potentially some wintry precipitation going into next week, which I'll explain more coming up. So right now, this is what we're looking at as we go into the overnight hours. Just after midnight, we'll be dropping into the upper teens. Around 6, 7 o'clock, this is when we'll start to see the coldest air of the season really start to settle in. I think we'll have a chance to bottom out close to around 11 degrees. But what you're seeing below the temperature, well, that's the wind chill. And so it's going to be feeling several degrees colder than that, even just within a slight breeze. So if you haven't already, definitely drip those faucets. You'll want to do that typically when actual air temperatures are below 28 degrees for 4 hours or more. You only need about 5 drips per minute, but it would be a good time to do so starting this evening before you head to bed. And guess what? You'll want to do it as we head into the rest of the work week as well, because each day this work week is going to feature temperatures close to about 40 degrees, but each night is going to be a hard freeze. So this week would be a good night to drip. This is what we're watching for and why we are weather impact alert going into tonight and Tuesday morning. It's because of black ice. So everything that doesn't dry off or completely melt, guess what? It's going to be refreezing hard as we go into Tuesday morning. If you haven't seen already, we have updated our local sleet totals. Gamewell picking up around 3 inches of sleet. Morganton up to around 2. Concord 1.5 inches. And close to around the uptown Charlotte area, about 1 inch of sleet. Of course, we were getting a combo of a little bit of everything. Sleet on top of freezing rain, on top of more sleet. We did that pretty much all day for your Sunday. So here are look at the newest freezing rain totals. We had ice accretions in Concord around 1/2 inch. So they are taking the number 1 spot there. Monroe about 0.3 inches, and Uptown around 1/4 inch of ice. I think we could have ended up with much more higher ice totals had we had not seen more sleet early on Sunday instead of that freezing rain. Temperature wise, we are above freezing. We did not get above freezing yesterday. It is now a nice 38 degrees in Charlotte, 36 over towards Statesville, but it's still very cold in the mountains. 15 right now over towards Boone with ongoing snow showers at the moment. Wind chills going into this evening, going to be brutal. Feeling like 11 degrees right around 8 o'clock here in the metro. Feeling like 16 below over towards Boone. Gets even colder as we go into your Tuesday morning. So keep that in mind. We could see those below 0 temperatures up in the high country all the way through Tuesday morning. That is why if you got a cold weather advisory, it is expected to see those wind chills again drop into the single digits, and an extreme cold warning has been issued for the mountains as well. Looking ahead, guys, it stays cold. We do not see a warm up in sight. Temperatures will remain below average for this time of year. You can see that reflected especially well on these low temperatures. We'll be waking up to the teens and lower 20s pretty much every single day this week, but we have even colder air arriving for the second half of the weekend and early next week. So highs, as we go into today and tomorrow, upper 30s, close to about 40. We'll start to enter in the 40s for the second half of the work week. And then boom, a big plummet down Saturday, 27 degrees. What the heck is happening for Saturday? We'll get to that future cast coming up in a minute. This afternoon, sunshine here in the Charlotte metro. We'll be again seeing those temperatures rise up close to about 40 degrees. We've got some isolated chances for some wintry precipitation as we head towards this weekend. Look at that. Round 2, guys. There is going to be a potential for, yes, some snow or at least a wintry mix. I can hear the groans. I feel it as well. Into Sunday morning. Listen, we're still way far out. A lot could change. We know that we will have some cold air locked in place, but will that match with the moisture that is headed our way? That is going to be the question. I will say at this point, it looks like models are agreeing on some sort of winter weather chance in the Carolinas, but it's just a little too early to tell. So don't panic. Hang on to those winter weather snacks. I'm not sure what you guys bought, but I have a lot of
Got a lot of stuff.
a lot of snacks.
What if you ate them in 2 days?
Water. Yes. Keep them around. Keep them handy for next weekend. You never know. But yes, weather impact alert tonight. Coldest air of the season. Black ice issues. And then we've got cold nights, cold mornings, followed by some pretty chilly afternoons until it gets even colder for next weekend.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, the ingredients are there for next week. We're still some days out, but man, I mean,
Give us a break, right?
Oh, right.
We're over it.
Oh, man, like 2026 just started. Come on. Mother Nature.
January is always a wild card.
Yeah.
So we could be ending out the month of January with yet more winter weather precipitation. But yes, that's something that we've got our eyes on. But we do know that regardless of any winter weather, it is going to be cold.
And then February, too. That's also, I feel like that's always a chance for us to get last year.
Even into March.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that.
Stop.
Yeah, come on. We're March twins. Come on. Becca Birdsall, she'll be back a little later with another check of your forecast in case you missed it. Becca, thank you for your time.
Of course.
Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. We are continuing to cover the aftermath and stuff that's left over from this ice storm from this weekend. Take a look at this. This is live aerials out of Raleigh, our neighbors about 2.5 hours away from here in Charlotte. You can still see some of that sleet, ice on the ground and on the roads. It looks like that shot has frozen.
It froze.
Because it's cold outside.
Cold.
That's why.
We're cold.
It froze because it's
chopper's cold. We're all
literally
cold.
frozen.
Stay inside.
Stay inside. But that's a look. That's a look at Raleigh. We want to go now to another area that was hit away from the Carolinas, much further north. We're talking about Massachusetts, Boston specifically. They saw a lot of snow there. A lot of snow. Let's take a listen in to what officials are saying right now.
That may come. But I really want to appreciate the public. We asked you to stay home. We asked you to stay off the roads. People did that, and it made a huge difference to our teams and the ability to take care of what we needed to. So that work will continue. And I also want to say that the MBTA has made a lot of progress, and so normal functions will resume tomorrow. In terms of power, as we predicted, we were fortunate. This was dry snow, and so we had very few power outages. I think we have power outages today at about 300 homes, and that's sort of normal for any day. So that's the good news. Also, the grid has proven reliable. That's good news. Here's what I'd ask people to do is stay off the roads today, continue to stay home, work from home as you can. Be careful shoveling. I know everybody's out. I was out earlier shoveling. Just take it easy with that. Pace yourselves. The wind chill is still really strong, so we care about, and are worried about frostbite. So just make sure you dress warmly, and kids do too, of course. Look out for your neighbors. Check in on your neighbors, especially elderly folks. Clear hydrants out from around your home so that our first responders can get to where they need to get. Follow a local guidance. A lot of towns have are out with guidance and will be tomorrow about any school closures or parking bans. I will say that for state employees, executive branch, we are back in office in service tomorrow, okay? So that will resume tomorrow. But again, my appreciation to all the teams, the state teams from Mass DOT, the MBTA, State Police, DCR, and MEMA for the work that they did, and also to the DPW and all of our local personnel who worked really hard through the storm to keep us safe and clear the roads. Many thanks. We were ready, our teams were ready, and our state was ready. So good luck today with everybody clearing out from the storm. And speaking of teams, pretty great game last night. Pats are headed to the Super Bowl, so that's a good vibe and a good feeling for all of us. I know we're super pumped about that. With that, I'd like to turn it over to our Secretary of Transportation, Phil Eng.
Thank you, Governor. As the Governor said, this storm hit exactly as predicted. It was fierce, a lot of snow, blowing snow, winds, but all the preparation, all the planning that both MassDOT and MBTA did in advance paid dividends. They worked well in advance of the storm. They worked through the storm, and they're continuing to work today as we speak, continuing to clean up our roadways, continuing to fix the infrastructure and clear snow from the MBTA system, and we're seeing improvements as we go. But as the Governor said, we do ask everyone to still please stay home if you can. Stay off the roads. There's still a significant amount of clearing that has to be done, and we are expecting a little more snow throughout the day. Couple of reminders, the RMV offices, the contact center, service centers, and road tests are closed for today. I also want to remind folks that if they are flying, they should check their airlines. There have been, as we all know, significant amount of cancellations of most, if not all, flights. So that's important to bring to mind. And I think with that, I'm just going to say thank you very much to the public for heeding the advice, staying home, and allowing us to do what we need to do. Service is restored and running on all of our systems, but I'm going to let Jonathan Gulliver, Undersecretary for MassDOT, talk about highways, and then Ryan Caholen, Chief Operating Officer for MBTA, to talk about the T service. Jonathan?
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Governor.
All right, thank you, Secretary, and thank you, Governor and Lieutenant Governor, for the support over the last few days. Our crews really worked hard over the last 24 hours, in fact, in advance of that, and as you've heard and seen, they have done a tremendous job. The men and women of MassDOT, they always deliver on this, and as I've said repeatedly over the last few days, when a lot of folks are in the summer thinking of their upcoming cookout, our people are thinking about snow and ice and what that next storm's going to look like, and that's why we're always prepared for ones like this when they come our way. We had a full call out, again over 3,000 pieces of equipment out on the roadways at its peak. We still have close to that out there right now. We're hoping to give some of those folks a rest in the next few hours, but there's still quite a bit of work to do. And then I'll give you kind of a quick update on what we can expect for the remainder of the day and into the next coming days. First off, crews have a lot of work left to do, both on the highways and on local city streets across the state. This was a big storm, delivered a lot of snow. We have to find places to put that snow now, so there's a lot of work going on statewide. Again, regardless if you're a local municipality or our folks on the state highway, they're pushing back those snow banks, opening up those roadways, really widening things out. Things are going to be narrow for the next few days with those big snow banks, but we're right now pushing those back and really trying to open up those roadways again, pushing back those shoulders and opening up those lanes and catch basins and other critical infrastructure on the road. As I said, we hope to give our crews a rest later on today, but we're going to be keeping quite a few folks on throughout the end of the day and into tomorrow to deal with the remaining snow that's coming our way. But also, if you're somebody who is an early morning driver, what to expect. We are dealing still with very cold temperatures on our roadways. Some of the snow that's out there right now is going to melt from what we're putting on it with the salt and the treatment. Some of that will refreeze. So we will have crews out periodically over the coming week to make sure that we're putting treatment down to try to reduce that black ice that you're likely to see first thing in the morning. But I do expect that you will see some slippery conditions, especially this afternoon with some of the remaining snow that we're getting, but also sometimes in the morning as well. And that's going to be on both local roadways and especially around places like intersections and entrance and on-ramps to our highways. So please be aware of that. Finally, before I leave the podium, I do want to give a strong reminder, if you do venture out, whether it's today or tomorrow, really, please take the time, clear off your cars. There's a lot of snow that came down. Take that extra few minutes, knock that snow off before you get on the roadways. That's a safety issue for both yourself and for the people around you, and it's certainly less work for our hardworking crews who have been out there for the last few days to clean up. So please take an extra moment, be safe and be mindful of the folks around you, and clear that snow off your roof. Now I'm like to invite Chief Operating Officer Ryan Caholen up to the podium to talk about what's going on at the MBTA. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good afternoon. So on behalf of the entire MBTA leadership team, I want to thank all of our employees and our contractors who have been working tirelessly since early yesterday to stay ahead of this storm. This was a significant snow event that impacted all of MBTA services, but as I stand here today, I can tell you that because of that aggressive approach, services are resuming very close to normal across the entire MBTA system today. The exception being our ferry service that serves Hingham, Hull, Logan Airport, and Boston. Due to an influx of slush and ice into Hingham Harbor, we're unable to run that service today. I urge any passenger to check back to mbta.com or the MBTA Go app. We're going to closely monitor that situation tonight through the wee hours, and we'll do our best to get the information out as early as possible regarding Hingham Ferry service tomorrow. As far as the rest of MBTA services for tomorrow, we expect normal service across all subway lines, bus routes, as well as the commuter rail and paratransit. Our crews will continue to work overnight, right through the wee hours and into tomorrow's service day to make sure that those snow drifts and those big snow piles are addressed, along with the freeze-thaw cycle. With that being said, I ask any passenger or anyone on MBTA property using our stations, facilities, or services, please take your time. Please allow some extra travel time, and we appreciate all your patience over the last 24, 30 hours. This has been a huge storm, but we're here, we're running, and we're looking forward to seeing you all back on board tomorrow. With that, I'll turn it back over to Governor Healy.
Thanks, Ryan. We're happy to take any questions.
Are you watching the game? What did you think?
Oh, well, I was certainly watching the game. The game was The game was great. It's New England Patriots football. It's back to where we were, who we've been, the whole region. It's awesome for the region. Just I'm in awe and so inspired by Mike Vrabel and his leadership and the way he got this group of guys to play together and come together. And awesome performance by them yesterday in really tough conditions. So awesome job by the defense, and Drake May was there when he needed to be to run. So we welcome them back home. They're coming home today, and it's going to be a great couple weeks getting pumped up and seeing them off, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yesterday in Norwood, there was that unfortunate plow accident. Are you able to comment on that fatal accident?
Yeah. We talked earlier about, I think, how really good this storm was in terms of the public's cooperation and the way that teams were able to get out and keep people safe and clear the roads and minimal power outages and all those very, very good things. But we also had a real tragedy in yesterday, in that there was a couple walking through an MBTA commuter rail parking lot. They were struck by a plow, one of the contractors from the commuter rail company, and the wife was killed. I've spoken with her husband. It's devastating. It is heartbreaking, and my heart goes out to their family. Very, very, very sorry to see that. Really, really unfortunate. I know the matter is under investigation right now, but my heart goes out to the family. I'm really, really sorry to see that.
Continue to see the fallout of Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Minneapolis particularly. I guess, do you know anything more? Is there anything happening in terms of reaction to that from Massachusetts, other states, or governors?
This morning I watched a reel of co-workers of Alex Preddy honor him. This just isn't right. This is so wrong, what's happened. It was so unnecessary. There was no need for all of that to go down in the way that it did. It is just an example of how out of control ICE is. It's why I call on Kristi Noem to resign. It's why I call on ICE to get out of these cities and these states. Donald Trump needs to rein this in and take this back. We have people who are clearly untrained who work for ICE now. As you know, a lot of people were recruited with $50,000 bonuses, come work for ICE. Minimal training. I've talked to colleagues in other states. Some of the training is online training. Online training. You would never run a law enforcement agency, or any agency, frankly, with online training. And what we have seen happen in Minnesota now, week after week, is action and conduct that is not consistent with good law enforcement practices, is harming public safety. It's not helping public safety. We actually have the safety and the well-being and lives of residents and Americans threatened by ICE's presence in these places. And I don't know what else it's going to take. I encourage people to read the statement of Alex Preddy's parents, Susan and Michael Preddy. Read that, take that in. Think about who this man was. An ICU nurse who served our veterans. And in that moment, watch the video. Watch any of the versions of the video. I know what I see. I see somebody who's standing with a cell phone, which, by the way, is a First Amendment protected right in this country. And I see him also looking to protect a woman who ICE was coming after, okay? That's what I saw. So my heart goes out to Alex Preddy, to his co-workers, and I really hope Americans take this in and understand the very sad and dangerous moment we've reached in this country. And it's why Kristi Noem has got to go. Kristi Noem's got to go. ICE has got to get out of these communities now. And Donald Trump needs to act and step up. And if he doesn't act, then Republicans in Congress need to force the accountability here, because we cannot continue to have Americans in our neighborhoods and cities and states across this country at risk. That's what needs to happen right now. I also am very bothered by what happened after his killing, okay? Because You know, remember, I come to this as a prosecutor, as a former attorney general, as somebody who investigated police-involved shootings and other criminal matters. And what did we see immediately? We saw immediately efforts to smear Alex Preddy and who he was. We saw lies, absolute lies. Look at the videos. We saw lies, and now more has come out. We've seen the head of the FBI not even understand Second Amendment law, right? We've seen the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, with whom I served, making outrageous, illegal, unlawful threats to state officials, essentially extortion, saying produce your voter rolls in exchange for ICE leaving town. That's not right. You know, what was it last week? We saw the release, the disclosure of an ICE memo to ICE employees that basically said, throw away everything we've done for 250 years, throw away the Fourth Amendment, you have the right to go right into someone's home. As governor of Massachusetts, that infuriates me. Because 250 years ago, it was a lawyer named James Otis who stood before a court here in the Commonwealth and said it is wrong for British soldiers to be able to go into people's homes without a warrant and ransack their property. That's what led John Adams to write the Massachusetts Constitution, which said that's wrong and people have a right. People have a right. And that right later appeared in the United States Constitution, the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment. So here we are celebrating 250 years of American history, and we've got a federal administration that's ready to throw out the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment. I could go on. That's why people in America need to take this in for what it is, okay? And understand, just juxtapose the videos and the testimony and the accounts alongside statements you're seeing from the likes of Kristi Noem, Greg Bavino, and other people who don't know what they're doing, are not doing their jobs responsibly, and are certainly acting in ways that are unlawful, unconstitutional, and do a huge disservice to the American public. Enough is enough. This needs to stop. And I hope that people today say a prayer for Alex Preddy and his poor parents who have to live this horrific tragedy, so unnecessary, but a sign of the times and where we're at, and I hope it stops.
Did the storm itself stop any other MBTA projects? Like I know this weekend, the Blue Line was supposed to be shut down for parts of it. Was that work done, or is that postponed? Do you expect that to be able to time?
No, the Blue Line work that was scheduled, we accelerated it so we could restore Blue Line service yesterday late evening. So that is complete. Everything else was put on hold, but nothing that is delayed that is affecting anything future.
I know you said that it should be full service tomorrow. Is it full service now, or is there still some parts that are not?
We are running every mode as scheduled. The commuter rail is still on the storm schedule, and as Ryan Coholan mentioned, the Hingham Hull ferry is not running as of this moment because of the slush and the potential for that ferry to stall.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. And again, I just want to shout out again, thank all the workers. We had a lot of people working in hospitals, too. I mean, there are a lot of people that had to stay working through the storm. So really appreciate everybody, okay? Take care, be safe today, and be careful out on the roads.
All right, so that is just a press conference that wrapped up there in Boston, Massachusetts. You heard from the governor, you heard from city officials there in Boston as they deal with the winter's weather that we've been dealing with. Granted, they got a lot more snow. We got more of the ice and the sleet, but again, that was an update there. We'll continue to check in not only here in our area, but across different parts of the country, because a large part of the country dealt with this winter storm from over the weekend. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. We are continuing to follow the aftermath of the ice storm that blew through our area and across a big chunk of the country this weekend. And over in Cabarrus County, Jesse Pierre there without a hat on. Jesse put a hat on, and without a scarf. Jesse put a scarf on too. I'm just nitpicking, Jesse. I'm messing with you. How are things looking there in Cabarrus County right now?
Well, things are looking good. The sun's coming out, and, that's been helping with melting a lot of the snow. And you can see a lot of it just really melting away. And I've been in Concord and really, again, covering just Cabarrus County this whole winter storm time frame. And, the good thing in this area is that there were no major widespread power outage or major street closures. But, we saw crews, when it comes to power utility crews set up in different areas in the county ready to respond if that was to happen. And we also saw crews plowing and clearing the snow. And that's kind of what we've been seeing today. A lot of it is being taken care of by the sun coming out. It's also very cold and windy. Which is a little bit different. It was cold yesterday, but it wasn't windy like this. Today it's really, really windy. A lot of the snow is melting, but the issue is with all the snow melting is tonight as it drops into the teens, it's going to be that refreezing. So I've been speaking to folks and, if you drive around, there's not that much stuff that's open right now. A lot of places are opening a little later in the day or staying closed. The Walmart was closed when I passed by over there. A lot of the different fast food restaurants were also closed, except the Waffle House. The Waffle House is saving lives. It was open yesterday. It was open today, and that is what is breakfast, lunch, dinner at this point because it's open. And literally, that's what one of the Concord residents I spoke to told me. He was like, "It's all about Waffle House right now." So right now, we're just kind of continuing to keep our eye on really the refreezing, which is going to be the biggest thing. And again, like I mentioned, it is really, really cold. I just came out to do the stream hit, but if you do go out, put gloves on, have your hat on. Make sure you have your scarf. I am wearing several layers, so we have some level of protection, but keep our eye on the refreeze that's supposed to be tonight. And, you probably would want to stay off the roads late night just because it's, slippery conditions and just creates a more hazardous condition for driving,
Jesse, I like the hash brown and the chocolate chip waffle. Carlene, would you want anything from Waffle House?
Ooh, they actually do have a good burger now. I will do a burger because it's past breakfast time.
About the burger, and I decided to just get a waffle, but I was really tempted. But I was like, I needed some kind of breakfast food. So,
girl, it's good. If you get back to it, that burger is banging.
All right, that's our order, Jesse. I know you're in Cabarrus County. We're here in Charlotte, but I'm just saying that's our order. Jesse Pierre, she'll be live at 4, 5, and 6. Jesse, be safe out there, and thank you for joining us.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I could do for some Waffle House right now. Waffle House is always open.
It's always good too.
Winter storms. Yeah. I always tell people I've covered several almost hurricanes.
Yep.
Hurricane, sort of just say almost hurricane, where the hurricane just moved in direction and I was out of the line of the hurricane. Waffle House open. Different scenario. Flooding. Waffle House. Yep. So yeah. Now I'm just like, man, can we do a longer break so we just take a trip to Waffle House right there? And I promise you, this is not an ad for Waffle House. All right. Again, if you're out there on the road today, if you have to be out, just be safe and also think about your commute in the morning where this stuff is going to refreeze because it's cold outside, but it's going to be frigid overnight into the morning. All right. Do we want to go to break? Or okay, let's go to break. We'll be back in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. All right, we want to go to Minneapolis. This is a virtual press conference that's happening right now. Local and state leaders speaking again during a live stream to give updates from different levels of government and share resources regarding ICE agents, federal agents there in Minneapolis over the weekend. Alex Preddy was killed by ICE agents. Let's take a listen in.
For medical supplies, and if you are someone who is in the area and you are hurt as you are resisting this federal occupation and legally observing what federal agents are doing to our community, that is the place to go. If you are and then B Resale, also on Eat Street, is collecting and distributing resources for rapid response. Muna Muno in Uptown alone has donated 4,500 bags of groceries to make sure families in our community are fed. If you're watching along, please check the description for a couple of links I want to lift up. The first is Whittier Alliance, which is our local neighborhood organization. They are collecting and distributing every day mutual aid supplies and supplies for protesters and for legal observers. So their office is located right off of Eat Street on 25th and Nicollet. As we navigate these coming weeks, something that is on the mind of families here in Whittier, where 90% of residents are renters, is how important it is for us to defend our community, and the best way that we are able to keep families together right now is by making sure every family can be safe and in their home. That's why we need an eviction moratorium, something that only our governor is able to do by declaring a state of emergency. And it is so important that we continue to make calls for our governor to declare that state of emergency and enact an eviction moratorium, which is the strongest tool that we have right now in keeping families together. Thank you so much for having me again, council member. And as Representative Gomez said, we are winning. Our community is united, and we will get through this time together.
Thank you so much, council member. Next, we'll go to Council President Elliott Payne for some additional city-specific updates.
Thank you, Councilmember Chowdhury. What we experienced was extremely heartbreaking, and one of the very first things that people started to do was to convene for vigils, and we saw vigils happening all across the city on Saturday night. But at the site where Alex was killed, there was increased security. The city had requested, by way of MPD, support from the National Guard. If you did go to the vigil where Alex was killed, you would have seen some of those National Guard members out there holding a vehicle perimeter around that site just to keep the area secure. It was a very limited in scope request. And after those vigils were done, the National Guard did leave the city. They're back on standby with no further requests from them at this time. A separate request that came directly from the state was for the National Guard to go to the Whipple building, but they went to the Whipple building to go build relationships with the people that were holding space there. They brought coffee and donuts. It was just purely a relationship building exercise, not by way of request from the city for any kind of quelling protest, but a request from the state to make sure that the people who are at the Whipple building know that the National Guard are working for the state, not for the federal government.
Thanks so much, Council President. Next, we'll go to Senator Doran Clark from some updates on the ground and updates from the state.
Thank you. My name is Doran Clark. I am the state senator for Northeast Minneapolis, Southeast Minneapolis, the University of Minnesota, and Cedar Riverside. Alex Preddy should be alive today. At 9:01 on Saturday morning, Alex Preddy was killed by federal agents in front of a donut shop. And as you heard from Representative Gomez, immediately the Department of Homeland Security, with agents still on the scene, began to spin a story that did not match what our eyes showed us. And much like the fable of the boy who cried wolf, we need to be skeptical and question the disinformation being shared by Christine Noem and the Department of Homeland Security. And while they were spinning these tales, they were blocking access to local and state officials to the scene, preventing Minnesota officials from conducting an investigation. In fact, the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension secured a judicial warrant to access the scene, and they were still blocked by federal authorities. These are the facts. And I ask you to believe your eyes, not other departments' lies. Minnesota can see with their own eyes what happened. Believe what you see and not what the federal government is trying to spin. To ensure that you're getting correct information, the Minnesota Department of Corrections has created a website called Combating DHS Misinformation. One of the areas that they are combating is that the U.S. Homeland Security is claiming credit for arrests that they have not done. This morning, the Department of Corrections, the Minnesota Department of Corrections, provided details of 68 transfers directly from Minnesota prisons to ICE that ICE has falsely claimed as people they have arrested and taken off the streets of Minnesota. These folks were already off the streets of Minnesota. These folks were in Minnesota jails and were peacefully transferred to ICE. Here's one more fact. The U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid has released a report on improper payments in the United States that has found that Minnesota's improper payment rate is far below national average. Precisely, the improper payment average in the United States is 6.1%, while the Minnesota rate is much lower, 2.1%. Allegedly, Homeland Security came here to investigate fraud, and we are at least 2/3 below the national average. The truth matters. Facts matter. And I expect the federal government to start telling the unedited truth. And I'm so grateful to those who keep true to be peacefully keeping a diligent watch and exercising their constitutional rights to monitor and watch our government so we could see the truth about Alex Preddy. You are helping the true story be shared around the world. And remember, with those facts that you're sharing, that you're collecting, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison is collecting them with his Federal Action Reporting Form. Just do a search for Federal Action Reporting Form, Minnesota Attorney General, and you're going to find that form. So keep doing the work to keep our eyes on the federal agencies to make sure that they are sticking to the law and that we are peacefully doing so and keeping our constitutional rights.
All right, so you're hearing from community members, Minnesota leaders regarding the recent protests over ICE, also calls for something to happen regarding the death of Alex Preddy as far as from the federal government. Speaking of the federal government, let's take a listen in to the White House briefing. It just started. That's Caroline Leavitt, press secretary. Let's take a listen in.
He has remained in constant contact with FEMA and emergency responders. President Trump also quickly approved 12 federal emergency disaster declarations within 24 hours for the states of Arkansas, Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, and West Virginia, enabling these states to access critical federal resources to supplement their response efforts if needed. These declarations will help state-led efforts of turning power back on, clearing roads for emergency services, and keeping communities safe. The White House will continue to correspond directly with governors and local officials in the coming days, especially in those states that were harshly impacted by this storm. I would also like to address the chaotic scenes in Minnesota over the weekend. Nobody in the White House, including President Trump, wants to see people getting hurt or killed in America's streets. This includes Renee Good, Alex Preddy, the brave men and women of federal law enforcement, and the many Americans who have been victimized at the hands of illegal alien criminals. Saturday's shooting remains under active investigation by Homeland Security Investigations and the FBI. The Customs and Border Protection is also conducting their own internal review. As President Trump said yesterday, the administration is reviewing everything with respect to the shooting, and we will let that investigation play out. But let's be clear about the circumstances which led to that moment on Saturday. This tragedy occurred as a result of a deliberate and hostile resistance by Democrat leaders in Minnesota. For weeks, Governor Walz and the Mayor Jacob Fry and other elected Democrats were spreading lies about federal law enforcement officers who are risking their lives daily to remove the worst criminal illegal aliens from our streets: murderers, rapists, pedophiles, human traffickers, and gang members. Governor Walz and Mayor Fry have shamefully blocked local and state police from cooperating with ICE, actively inhibiting efforts to arrest violent criminals. They have also used their platforms to encourage left-wing agitators to stalk, record, confront, and obstruct federal officers who are just trying to lawfully perform their duties, which has created dangerous situations threatening both these officers and the general public and Minnesotans alike. This is precisely what unfolded in Minneapolis on Saturday morning. Obstructing federal law enforcement and inciting violence against officers is wrong and illegal. This used to be a universally accepted position in the United States. Amid the hysteria, we must remember how we got here to this moment today and what this Democrat opposition is about. Former President Joe Biden and the Democrats opened America's borders for 4 years, inviting tens of millions of illegal aliens from all over the world to flood into our country. Among them, violent criminals who terrorized American communities and have inflicted devastating, permanent pain and harm on law-abiding Americans and their families. Yet we never saw outrage from Democrats or their allies in the liberal media over these horrifying crimes against U.S. citizens. The pain of American angel families was ignored and dismissed because it undermined the Democrat narrative. Innocent Americans like Jocelyn Nungray, Laken Riley, and Rachel Morin are just a few of the many victims savagely murdered by illegal alien criminals. Earlier this month, an illegal alien from Mexico with a long criminal history who came into our country under Joe Biden's administration threw a baseball-sized stone at a school bus carrying children in New Jersey and fractured the skull of an 8-year-old innocent child. President Trump promised accountability to these American families by securing the border, deporting every illegal alien who has committed crimes, especially and most importantly, violent crimes. Nearly 80 million Americans voted for him to deliver on that very promise, and he is. As the duly elected president, the president is fulfilling the will of the people by arresting and removing these threats from our country in cities from Los Angeles to New York and, yes, Minneapolis. Yet Democrat leaders in Minnesota with sanctuary city policies have actively defied federal immigration law and the will of the people. And as a result of that defiance, 2 Minnesotans have now tragically lost their lives on the streets of Tim Walz's state. It is President Trump's hope and wish and demand for the resistance and chaos to end today. That's why President Trump spoke with Governor Walz directly this morning, and he has outlined a clear and simple path to restoring law and order in Minnesota. Number 1, Governor Walz, Mayor Fry, and all Democrat leaders should turn over all criminal illegal aliens currently incarcerated in their prisons and jails to federal authorities, along with any illegal aliens with active warrants or known criminal histories for immediate deportation. Number 2, state and local law enforcement must agree to turn over all illegal aliens who are arrested by local police. And then thirdly, local police must assist federal law enforcement in apprehending and detaining illegal aliens who are wanted for crimes, especially violent crimes. If Governor Walz and Mayor Frey implement these common sense cooperative measures that I will add have already been implemented in nearly every single other state across the country, Customs and Border Patrol will not be needed to support ICE on the ground in Minnesota. ICE and local law enforcement can peacefully work together, as they are effectively doing in so many other states and jurisdictions. Additionally, President Trump is calling on the United States Congress to immediately pass legislation ending sanctuary cities once and for all. American cities should be safe sanctuaries for law-abiding citizens only, not for dangerous illegal alien criminals who broke our nation's laws and do not belong here. We hope Governor Walz will do the right thing and continue to work with President Trump to keep the American people safe following their call this morning. Americans overwhelmingly want exactly what President Trump is delivering: strong borders and strict immigration enforcement against the worst illegal aliens, of which there are still hundreds of thousands to deport from the interior of our country. The most peaceful way to carry out this vital public safety mission is for Republicans and Democrats to do it together, and for state and local law enforcement to work together with federal law enforcement. We want to let cops be cops. You wouldn't know this continues to be a very popular policy position from the biased media coverage over the course of the last few days, but polling shows huge support for this exact thing President Trump is calling for. More than 80% of Americans favor deporting illegal aliens convicted of violent crimes. A country unable to deport criminals who enter it illegally is no country at all. The open borders agenda of Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, and the Democrats was already on the ballot on November 5th, 2024, and it was resoundingly rejected. President Trump will never back down from his promise to deport violent criminal illegal aliens and make America safe again, and he welcomes all cooperation in that effort. With that, I will answer your questions. And Jordan Conradson, why don't you kick us off today? Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Caroline. Jordan Conradson from Gateway Fund. I have a few questions. First, with respect to the shooting in Minneapolis, we're seeing massive outrage from mainstream media and the left, but I'm just wondering, where was that outrage when Ashley Babbitt, an Air Force veteran, was executed by Capitol Police Officer Michael Byrd, who she posed no threat to in the U.S. Capitol?
Well, you raised a very important point, which I also believed I just raised as well in those opening remarks, in that there has no doubt been selective outrage by the liberal biased media in picking and choosing victims and highlighting their stories. And as I've said, President Trump does not want any Americans to lose their lives in the streets of America and in American communities across the country. He believes what happened on Saturday is a tragedy, but every life is equal to President Trump, and that's why the lives of Laken Riley and Jocelyn Nungray continue to matter to him and be an utmost priority to him to this very day. And it's unfortunate that we did not see the same type of sensationalist media coverage over the tragic deaths of those innocent American women and girls across the country as we are in the wake of this tragedy that took place on Saturday. Gabe. Sure, go ahead, Jordan.
I want to get your response to this. The Arizona Attorney General, just days before this shooting in Minneapolis, she seemingly encouraged rioters to go out, shoot, and kill ICE agents. And I'll quote her here. She said, "If you reasonably believe your life's in danger and you're in the house or in your car or on your property, you can defend yourself with lethal force." And she said that you can't tell if ICE agents are law enforcement or imposters, and it becomes an issue of whether you reasonably believe they were law enforcement. Do you have a response to that, and does the White House believe that she should be held accountable for these remarks?
Such dangerous rhetoric, as I pointed out, is exactly what has brought us to this position today, where you have elected Democrat officials across the country who are encouraging left-wing agitators and crazy people to go out and unlawfully obstruct lawful immigration enforcement. Again, these brave men and women of ICE and Border Patrol and the federal enforcement are just trying to do their jobs to enforce our nation's immigration laws and to go after the worst of the worst in this country. I would encourage everyone in this room, and I would encourage the Arizona Attorney General to look at the video of an ICE agent in Minneapolis. He was approached by left-wing agitators who were honking their horns and were screaming slurs at him. And he rolled down his window and he said, "What are you doing? I am out here trying to catch a child predator, somebody who has convicted crimes against an innocent child, and you are trying to obstruct me from doing my job." This rhetoric against ICE, comparing them to Nazi Gestapo, Donald Trump's police force, is despicable, it is shameful, and it is precisely what has led to the escalation of tensions in Minneapolis and in other places across the country. Gabe, go ahead.
Be looking to do her for justifying violence?
I would defer you to the Department of Justice on that.
Thank you, Caroline. Regarding Minnesota, on Saturday, the Department of Homeland Security posted that Preddy looks like he wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. Stephen Miller on Saturday posted that, or called Preddy a would-be assassin. Why did administration officials jump to conclusions before an investigation had even been conducted?
Well, look, this has obviously been a very fluid and fast-moving situation throughout the weekend. As for President Trump, whom I speak for, he has said that he wants to let the investigation continue and let the facts lead in this case.
Well, with regards to the deployment of Tom Homan to Minneapolis, should the deployment of Mr. Homan to Minneapolis be seen as a sign that the president is dissatisfied with how the officials on the ground had handled the incident?
No, Mr. Homan is doing an exceptional job, and he has been working with Secretary Noem and President Trump over the course of the last year. Secretary Noem still has the utmost confidence and trust of the President of the United States, and she's continuing to oversee the entire Department of Homeland Security and all of the immigration enforcement that's taking place across the whole entire country. Of course, Secretary Noem is also in charge of FEMA, and we are in the wake of a brutal winter storm where hundreds of thousands of Americans have been impacted by that. So Border Czar Homan is in a unique position to drop everything and go to Minnesota to continue having these productive conversations with state and local officials, and I know that he's catching a plane in just a few hours to do just that at the request of the president. Jennifer.
On Saturday's shooting, has the president been briefed, and have you been briefed on specific details of the shooting? How many shots were fired? How many guns discharged? And I mean, did the protesters' gun go off, or only the officers' guns? Do you have any of those details?
Again, the investigation is continuing, Jennifer, and we will let the facts lead and we will let the facts play out. In this investigation, I do know that HSI and FBI are conducting interviews with those that were involved and the agents who were involved in this unfortunate tragedy on Saturday.
Are they keeping the president up to date on all those details?
The president is obviously very much on the ball with respect to this investigation. I think he's made that quite clear with the various statements that you've seen him put out, and also the 4 points that the president has outlined as well to Governor Walz, and to encourage him to cooperate with ICE and with the administration. Mary.
Thanks, Caroline. To follow on Gabe's question, Secretary Noem said Alex Preddy committed an act of domestic terrorism. Stephen Miller labeled Preddy a domestic terrorist. Does the president agree with them?
Look, as I've said, I have not heard the president characterize Mr. Preddy in that way. However, I have heard the president say he wants to let the facts and the investigation lead itself.
Was he alarmed to hear his top officials referring to him in that way, rushing to that judgment?
Danny, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. On Stephen Miller's comments, will Stephen Miller be apologising to the family of Alex Preddy for calling him, quotes, an assassin who tried to murder federal agents, despite the fact that, as you say, this is still under investigation?
Look, again, this incident remains under investigation, and nobody here at the White House, including the President of the United States, wants to see Americans hurt or killed and losing their lives in American streets. And we mourn for the parents. As a mother myself, of course, I cannot imagine the loss of life, especially losing one's child. And that same empathy from the president goes for the parents of angel families, and parents of victims of illegal alien crime across our country as well. And that's exactly why the president continues to be wholeheartedly committed to deporting the worst of the worst criminals from our country. Why don't we go to the back? Kelly.
Caroline, does the president believe that the killing, though, was a mistake? Has he expressed that at all?
Again, the president has said, we have to review it, and this investigation needs to continue, and he's letting the facts on the investigation lead itself.
Does he want the body camera footage to be released to the public? Now,
that's not something I've heard the president commit to, so I won't do that from the podium. Sure.
Carrie, how serious is the administration taking allegations that local and state officials in Minnesota are actively coordinating with demonstrators through encrypted or non-encrypted communications, as well as providing government resources to impede immigration enforcement operations?
I'm sorry, Carrie, could you repeat your question?
How serious is the administration taking allegations that local and state Minnesota officials are communicating with demonstrators to basically impede immigration officials?
Well, we've definitely seen active organization amongst these left-wing groups, Carrie, and it is something that I know the FBI and the Department of Justice are looking into. Again, it is illegal to unlawfully obstruct lawful immigration enforcement in this country, and these agitators are making it nearly impossible for ICE to do their jobs and for federal law enforcement to carry out the will of the American people to deport the worst of the worst. I would just encourage everyone to please imagine in this room, all of you come to the White House every day to report on the President of the United States and the administration. You come into this briefing room, you walk through the gates of the White House. Just imagine if there were left-wing agitators or agitators of any kind who were in your face, who were doxing you, who were harassing you, who were physically threatening you, who were biting off your fingers in the case of two Border Patrol agents we saw this past weekend in Minneapolis. That would make it very difficult for you to show up and do your job here at the White House every single day. That's what these officers in Minneapolis are facing. That's why the president is calling on Governor Walz and Mayor Frey for these three very simple and common sense points of cooperation so that ICE and local law enforcement can work together. Again, we are just asking for police to be police. And if you ask any law enforcement agent or official, they want to be able to work with their federal counterparts at the state and local level and vice versa.
Caroline. Thanks a lot, Caroline. Two questions. One is looking forward. The role of Mr. Homan. Is he being sent by the president to diffuse the situation that exists right now on the ground? Is he the point person essentially for the White House in terms of trying to tamp down the tensions that exist right now in Minnesota?
Well, Mr. Homan is the point person for cooperating with state and local authorities and corresponding with them, again, to achieve this level of cooperation to subdue the chaos on the streets of Minneapolis. And I would just point out that Mr. Homan is someone who has been lauded for many, many decades for his experience working in law enforcement. In fact, this is a Washington Post headline from 9 years ago, 2016. Meet the man the White House has honored for deporting illegal immigrants. And I would remind everyone in this room that it was former President Barack Hussein Obama who awarded a medal to Mr. Homan. So he's obviously very qualified. He has the full trust and faith of the president. He will continue to have these meetings in the hopes that ICE and local law enforcement can cooperate and work together to have successful immigration enforcement, as we've seen in almost every other state across the country.
Secondly, Caroline, can you talk a little bit about tomorrow's trip by the president to Iowa, what the purpose of that trip is, what the goals of that trip are?
Sure, yes. Tomorrow, President Trump will be traveling to Des Moines, Iowa. He will be making a local visit at a local business, and then he will be giving a speech on affordability and on the economy. And I know he very much looks forward to being there, to meeting with the great people of Iowa, but also lawmakers as well. Jake.
Caroline, a couple quick questions. First, does the president remain fully confident in Kristi Noem's ability to lead the DHS?
Yes.
And then just secondly, just on that Wall Street Journal reporting that we saw yesterday, the president said at some point that the immigration enforcement officers would leave Minneapolis. Did the Saturday killing of Alex Pretty expedite that withdrawal at all?
To your first question, the answer is yes. He still has confidence and trust in Secretary Noem. To the second question, I would point you back to what I said earlier. If Governor Walz and Mayor Frey implement these common sense cooperative measures, CBP will no longer be needed to support ICE on the ground in Minnesota. ICE and local law enforcement will peacefully work together, as they are effectively doing in so many other states and jurisdictions, to remove violent criminals from American neighborhoods across the country.
Did Walz ask the president to remove the immigration enforcement officers?
He asked the president to scale down, and the president reiterated what the president put out in his statement yesterday and what I'm sharing with all of you as well. I would just add on this level of cooperation a few statistics that I think are very important. 7 of the top 10 safest cities in the United States cooperate with ICE, and we've seen historic turnaround in safety in cities that have chosen to cooperate with ICE, that are not just led by Republicans, but also look right here in Washington, D.C. We had a great level of cooperation with Mayor Bowser and the local government, and we have been able to remove thousands of illegal aliens from the District of Columbia, where you all live, so you can thank President Trump for that. The murder rate in Washington, D.C. has plummeted as a result. There were no riots, there were no protests, nobody was tragically killed as a result of that level of cooperation between federal and local authorities. And again, that's all the president is asking for in Minnesota. It's totally common sense. Jared, go ahead.
Thank you. Caroline, in this process, you continue to describe the situation in Minneapolis as chaos. Was there any mistake made by Secretary Noem that led the president to send Mr. Homan there?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question. Did Secretary Noem make a mistake which led to...
If she made any mistake that could lead the president to send Mr. Homan to Minneapolis?
No, as I already mentioned, Mr. Homan has been working alongside Secretary Noem and for the president over the course of the last year. And again, he's uniquely positioned to hop on a flight to Minnesota today to continue this correspondence with state and local authorities, and that's what he's going to be doing. Fran.
Caroline, is it the White House's position that Americans have the right to show up to these ICE operations and film, document, or protest the law enforcement actions?
All Americans have a First Amendment constitutional right, of course, but Americans do not have a constitutional right to impede and obstruct lawful immigration enforcement operations. That is actually a crime, and it's something that we've seen taking place in the streets of Minneapolis, which again is leading to these dangerous circumstances that these federal law enforcement officers have been forced to work within.
With respect to the call with Governor Walz this morning, the president described it as respectful. He said we seem to be on a similar wavelength, but you had strong criticism for the governor and the Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Frey, just now. So could you explain the difference in tone between what the president had said in his True Social post and I think some of the criticisms that you just levied from the podium?
Fran, I think the criticisms that I laid out, I'm painting the picture for all of you in this room, are what led to the moment that we are in today, where Governor Walz and President Trump are having a conversation, a constructive and productive conversation to end the chaos and the lawlessness that has taken place in Governor Walz's state. Elena.
Thank you. I had a question. With Homan now going to Minnesota, is Gregory Bovino also going to remain in Minnesota overseeing these ICE operations?
Mr. Bovino is a wonderful man, and he's a great professional. He is going to very much continue to lead Customs and Border Patrol throughout and across the country. Mr. Homan will be the main point of contact on the ground in Minneapolis.
And to follow up, given what we've heard from several Trump administration officials, people like Stephen Miller, as people point out, calling him a domestic terrorist, Bovino saying that Preddy was out to massacre law enforcement, why not require ICE agents to wear body cameras to clear up some of the disputes that we are hearing from witnesses and video footage versus what the administration has been saying?
Well, that's a policy question that I know the policy folks in the building are having with members on Capitol Hill, and I'll leave it to them and the president to make that decision.
And I just, my final question is on, you were talking about the level of cooperation that the president talked about with Governor Walz. Will the administration commit to cooperating with local officials on this investigation into Alex Preddy?
The president spoke about this with Governor Walz and said he would have a discussion about it. He did not make a commitment, and so therefore I won't make that commitment here. I would just remind all of you in the media, because I've seen a lack of reporting on this fact, there are investigations into what took place on Saturday. The Homeland Security investigations and the FBI have teamed up for an investigation, and there's also an internal CBP investigation, an internal review of what is happening on the ground in Minnesota. The president supports those investigations, and as I've said repeatedly, he wants to see them move forward. Phil.
Thank you, Caroline. FBI Director Kash Patel said in a Sunday interview, quote, "You cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest." Does the president believe the Second Amendment rights remain in effect even when protesting?
The president supports the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding American citizens, absolutely. There has been no greater supporter or defender of the right to bear arms than President Donald J. Trump. So while Americans have a constitutional right to bear arms, Americans do not have a constitutional right to impede lawful immigration enforcement operations. And any gun owner knows that when you are carrying a weapon, when you are bearing arms and you are confronted by law enforcement, you are raising the assumption of risk and the risk of force being used against you. And again, that's unfortunately what took place on Saturday.
Caroline is in Minneapolis. Will his mission continue to be focusing on illegal immigrants with a criminal history, or will it be on illegal immigration generally?
Mr. Homan will continue to enforce our nation's immigration laws, especially deporting the worst of the worst criminals in Minnesota who have committed violent offenses. And I would just remind all of you that this important work is continuing to be carried out. In just the last few days, I'm happy to provide this packet to anyone in the room. ICE has arrested multiple violent criminals, illegal aliens within Minnesota. Many of them have convictions for assault, driving under the influence, fraud. This individual here I'm looking at was an aggravated felon with multiple convictions for larceny, fraud, and forgery of checks, vehicle theft, drug possession, domestic assault, inflicting bodily harm on another, criminal convictions of larceny, identity theft, again, charged with driving under the influence. These are extremely dangerous people who Governor Walz and Mayor Frey have allowed to roam on their streets, and all the president is asking for is cooperation to arrest individuals like this and deport them from the United States of America. I'll take a couple more. Go ahead.
Okay, so this weekend the president posted that this is a cover-up of the fraud in the state of Minnesota. He also posted Minnesota is a cover-up. These both happened after the shooting. So given that these came after the shooting, what is the this here? What is the cover-up he's alleging?
Yes, it's a good question. I've spoken with the president about this at length. What the president is referring to is the fact that you have Governor Walz and, again, the mayor, who have been encouraging these left-wing agitators to come out and to harass and to dox and to threaten ICE and to make this conversation about and smear lies about federal law enforcement who, again, are just trying to do their jobs in an attempt to distract from the widespread massive fraud that has taken place in their state. Billions and billions of dollars has been stolen from law-abiding taxpayers in Minnesota, and the administration continues to be very focused on getting to the bottom of it, especially, and the president raised a good question over the weekend, with respect to Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who now has a net worth within the millions, and one must ask themselves why and how is that possible? Is she connected to the fraud rings that we have seen taking place within her state and her own district? It's a question the American people are raising, and the president believes it's one worth answering. Haley.
Thanks, Caroline. I want to go back to some of the comments from Stephen Miller and Secretary Noem. You've made clear the president wants to see the investigation play out when answering some of the questions on the specific details. Is he concerned that some of those definitive statements made by other officials risks public perception of the credibility of those investigations now playing out?
Again, the president believes that these investigations are credible, they are continuing, they are active, and he wants to let them play out. Alex.
Caroline, thank you. Is the administration willing to separate DHS funding from other funding bills in order to avoid a broader shutdown?
Look, at this point, the White House supports the bipartisan work that was done to advance the bipartisan appropriations package, and we want to see that passed. Policy discussions on immigration in Minnesota are happening. Look, the president is leading those discussions, as evidenced by his correspondence with Governor Walz this morning, but that should not be at the expense of government funding for the American people, which would include, as you know, Alex, FEMA funding, and we are in the midst of the storm that took place over the weekend, and many Americans are still being impacted by that. So we absolutely do not want to see that funding lapse, and we want the Senate to move forward with passing the bipartisan appropriations package that was negotiated on a bipartisan basis.
And secondly, there's another round of Russia-Ukraine talks this weekend, Sunday. I wonder if you can walk us through with the president, how he'll be involved in that, if at all. We'll be talking to President Putin, President Zelensky ahead of those meetings.
I'm not tracking any scheduled calls at this point in time. However, the president remains deeply involved, and of course he's being apprised by his advisors, namely Jared Kushner and Special Envoy Witkoff, on these talks. They had a multilateral meeting this past weekend, which didn't get a ton of coverage, but that was historic in nature, where the president's team has really brought two sides of this war to the table together to move the ball closer towards peace. So the president is not giving up on the peace process. He obviously just met with President Zelensky when we were in Davos, Switzerland, but I'm not tracking any calls scheduled for this week. On one more foreign policy point, I will point out, as you all saw, the last remaining body of the hostages, Israeli hostages in Gaza, has been returned. This is a huge foreign policy feat for the President of the United States, for the State of Israel, and frankly for the whole world. The President made the impossible possible, and so it's great news for the President, for the United States, for our allies, and also for peace in the Middle East. And I understand that more than 20 new additional countries have also signed up to join the newly established Board of Peace with respect to the rebuilding of Gaza, which is another historic accomplishment for this president. So
all right, so that is Caroline Leavitt. Actually, it just wrapped up. The press briefing, White House press briefing happens weekly there at the White House, giving updates on all things Trump administration. All right, let's take a quick break. On the other side of the break, we're going to check in on our friends in eastern North Carolina, see how they're holding up after this ice storm blew through not only the Carolinas, but a good chunk of the country. We'll be back in just 2 minutes. All right, welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. All right, so a lot of you guys woke up this morning to a bunch of ice, especially here in the Charlotte area, a bunch of ice on your front windshield, maybe in your apartment complex, maybe outside of your home on your steps, sleet as well. Just an icy morning. Some of this stuff I could tell is starting to melt off, but it's going to get really cold overnight and it's just going to refreeze. So something to look out for in the morning. And again, take your time on the road during your commute during the day because it's still slick out there. Let's check in with our good friend, Sam Walker from Sam Walker OBX News. Sam Walker, how are you doing, my friend?
Trying to stay warm. It feels like today anyway. And we're out here shoveling all the rain that we got over the last 24 hours.
I was just about to ask, man. So obviously you're not just Dare County, but I'm thinking about Rocky Mount, Nash County, Edgecombe, Tarboro. How is everybody? I know I'm giving you like a big area right now. How are folks faring there?
Yeah, just give me everything east of I-95, why don't you? So, because that's how we feel out here. It's the Berlin Wall, you know. The rest of North Carolina doesn't care about us. That's how it goes. No, you know, and I'll start there because that's where it seems like for eastern North Carolina was the largest impacts from this winter storm, with the freezing rain, with the sleet, with the bad roads, some power outages, things like that. And again, right along the I-95 corridor, as you get into those areas, like you said, Tarboro, Rocky Mount, Nashville, on up to Roanoke Rapids, on down towards you know, Benson, Fayetteville, those places. It was rough at times, but it was kind of comes and goes. And again, you know, the forecasts were calling for, you know, 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch of ice. It looks like it was a lot less in those areas, maybe 1/10 to 1/4, right on that borderline of really things going bad. As you get farther east, where the transition really was between, say, Wilson and Greenville, it was nearly, you know, it was, again, pockets of areas that saw problems, but not just widespread, you know, slick roads and things like that. We saw a glaze of ice on vehicles, and even down, you know, as far east as Wilmington had a glaze at the National Weather Service office there at Wilmington International Airport. They had their vehicles were kind of covered with a light glaze. And then as you get farther northeast on up towards where I'm at on the Outer Banks, really it was concentrated to areas from Edenton west and Gates County, and then down Plymouth, Little Washington. Those areas saw some icing, and there were some slick roads yesterday morning in a couple of bridges. In fact, the Neuse River Bridge in New Bern had to be shut down for about an hour or two because of ice that formed on it and a couple of crashes. And we had the same reports in the Chowan River Bridge, where US 17 passes over the Chowan River in the northeast. And then as you move just a little bit farther east, you get to Elizabeth City. There was some sleet when it started Saturday night. Same thing in like Kill Double Hills. Same thing, you know, where I'm at in Currituck County. And then by 2, 3 in the morning, it was all rain, and it pretty much just rained the whole time. So we really missed out on this, and the forecast kind of held just about what we were expecting out here on the coast. Thankfully, no ocean issues, no big waves to deal with, no ocean overwash, no soundside flooding, even though we had some pretty stiff winds out of this storm. But really, for the most part, we made out pretty well here in the Northeast and eastern North Carolina in general.
Oh man, you talked about Elizabeth City. I was just in that area a couple of weeks ago. So, and I'm familiar with Eastern North Carolina. When it gets slick, because I think back to 2015, 2016, 2022, covering not quite that north, but Eastern North Carolina and Southeastern North Carolina. Yeah, it gets treacherous on those roads because it's a lot more rural out there. And look, folks are just hunkered down. They're not out and about like here in the Charlotte metro area.
Yeah, everybody kind of takes advice when it comes to these storms. They get things done before and then kind of, yeah, like you said, stay home. Take advantage of a day off maybe and sit inside, watch some football like everybody was doing yesterday afternoon and evening. You know, and the other thing that happens out here so many times is the rain snow line sets right up just inland, just to a certain point. In fact, there's the Intracoastal Waterway, which runs along through the why we call it intracoastal. It's inside the Outer Banks, so it runs through the sounds and the coastal rivers. That kind of seems like it's the cutoff line. In one particular spot, I just happen to live at this particular spot. It's called Coin Jock, and it's where the canal, the Intracoastal Waterway, crosses US 158. And that always seems like it could be 6 inches of snow north of it and nothing south of it. That's kind of how these storms a lot of times play out here. Just because it's just close enough to the water, we've got these big wide bodies of water we call sounds, the Currituck Sound, the Albemarle Sound, the Pamlico Sound. There's just enough heat content in there to keep things from turning into snow. And then, of course, if you get a northeast breeze or a breeze off the ocean, even in the upper atmospheres, it creates a situation where we miss out, if you will. But again, you just go a couple of miles inland and there's a sheet of ice or, you know, a couple inches of snow. That's kind of what happened. It was just in a larger scale this time, and there's a lot of other meteorological reasons. But yeah, out here, because we're rural, even though we're part of the Hampton Roads, the Norfolk, Virginia metropolitan area, and we actually are part of the metro, I guess it's kind of like if you're headed out to Statesville, if you will, almost for Charlotte, kind of that same scenario. So life still goes on, and there's a lot of places you got to go and get to. But yeah, for the most part, everybody did that. They kind of stayed home yesterday, and that's probably what helped with the lack of issues we really had out here.
Yeah, you're just a quick 45-minute drive to Norfolk.
Yep.
Sam, I got to ask, look, round 2, I know it's still early, but it looks like it could be, if the models play out the way they, worst case scenario, y'all could be getting something. Any talk, any preparation happening? Again, I know it's still early, but I had to ask you.
Yeah, we're starting to get some rumbles, not just about wintry precipitation, starting to get a little concerned that maybe this is going to be more of a traditional nor'easter, which brings its own problems for the beaches, and especially that area of Buxton that we've been, everybody's been covering it now for a year with where the houses all fell. That's a very tiny area, by the way, folks. It's not the whole Outer Banks. It's about a mile, if you will, where all that happened. We are concerned that this next system this weekend may bring us a little bit longer period of strong winds over the open ocean, creating more wave action. We are going to be coming into a little higher tide cycle, lunar tide cycle as well this weekend. So just early on, we're going to start thinking, okay, maybe this is going to be one where we've got to be worried about multiple impacts. There's going to be plenty of cold air in place, that's for sure. We're supposed to be down in the teens here on the mainland tonight and the next couple of nights. Even the beaches are going to be in the mid-20s. Even Hatteras Island in the upper 20s, where it rarely gets down below freezing. It was 65 there yesterday, by the way, at that one point with this system, the last system. So, yeah, we are getting a little concerned about that. Preparation-wise, it's probably the DOT's probably going to have the biggest problem because they've used up so much salt so far. So they're going to have to get all that back in and get the roads done. But as far as preparations go with anything happening coastal wise, that's kind of life out here. It's Monday on the Outer Banks is what we call it. We just roll with it. We know it's going to happen at some point. We've dodged a couple of bullets. We haven't had to deal with this since late October, which is a good thing, but the overall pattern in the atmosphere is starting to set up that we may be dealing with some late winter nor'easters into spring, which can be just as powerful and just as damaging as hurricanes can. So this might be round 1 of the late winter storms. Hopefully not, but we'll be ready for it just like we always are.
Yeah. Oh, man. Sam, I got to ask you this because an interesting read from your website, again, Sam Walker, obxnews.com. Hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot, but again, just very interesting looking at the numbers. Lodging revenue in the forecast.
Yeah.
Oh, man, really fascinating stuff because, you don't think about it. 6 years since the pandemic, Sam, almost 6 years. And revenue, occupancy revenue went down and then it shot up when things were clear and took a slight dip. And now the forecast, can you explain those numbers? I don't know if I kind of rambled through that. I don't know if I did a great job explaining, but can you explain what that article is about?
Yeah, so the Outer Banks Visitors Bureau had a study commission by a company called Tourism Economics, and they do this. This is what they do. They project out tourism revenue numbers, hospitality tax numbers. So we're talking about your occupancy tax, your meals tax. Here on the Outer Banks, we shut down, if you go back to during the pandemic, right, March 17th, 2020, closed the bridges. Dare County said, nope, nobody's coming in. We're going to ride this thing out. Did that until the second week of May, where only only residents were allowed on the Outer Banks. That was very controversial for obvious reasons. Many of our second homeowners, or many of our homeowners, property owners here on the Outer Banks, are from the Northeast. They're from the major metropolitan areas. They were trying to find a way to get out, go somewhere that they felt a little safer. So we saw this massive, massive hit to our economy. Well, when we reopened, one of the things about the Outer Banks is, though, it's so unique. It's 110 miles long, and we don't have boardwalks. We don't have amusement parks. We don't have all the things that Virginia Beach, Myrtle Beach, Atlantic City, and Coney Island, and places like that have. It's wide open beaches, houses. Yeah, we've got a lot of houses, but they're kind of spread out. We saw a mass influx. Our tourism revenue tripled, went from like $120 million to over $300 million in 2021, 2022. looking back on how things went, the numbers just kind of leveled out. It was anticipated there was going to be a dip. There was going to be more of a reset, not so much a dip on a loss. It was just going to be reset. It was going to go back to normal growth. That never happened. We've stayed in that upper 200s, 200 million, just in occupancy, gross occupancy revenue, which is that's what people are paying to stay at a hotel, stay at a vacation rental. Then they take and calculate the occupancy tax with that. So this projection was run. We saw a little dip in 24. We're expecting things to be right about where 24 was this year. The final numbers will come in here in 2 weeks. And then looking ahead, there's a lot of questions about what's going to happen overall with the economy. We have seen a dip in international travel, especially from Canada. This is a very popular destination for Canada to come to because there's a huge wind sports community in Canada. They come to Hatteras Island. They spend weeks here in the spring, in the winter, and in the fall because our weather is relatively warmer. We've seen a dip in that. A lot of things play into this. Again, the economy, political situations and all. But right now it looks like, we're going to see a little rise this year, maybe a little rise next year. But it's more of a reset, if you will. And you got to remember, Dare County is the third highest tourism generating county in North Carolina. Mecklenburg is first, Wake is second, Dare is third with almost we were at $2.1 billion overall tourism economy income last year. So, one of the things we track that very closely because it's trickles down. It is a tourism based economy first. And if tourism takes a huge hit, everybody takes a huge hit out here. But right now, it looks like we're just going to level off and continue that level off just because people love coming here.
Wow, fascinating stuff there, Sam. Again, I encourage you guys to take a look at that article, Sam Walker, obxnews.com. Always good stuff coming from Sam. Sam, we're gonna have you back on soon, depending what happens this weekend or not. But we're gonna talk to you soon, my friend.
I'm sure you will. Unfortunately, I'd rather talk tourism than storms, to be honest with you.
We can do that too.
Yeah, but hey, you know what? Like we say, that's life on a sandbar. We deal with it. The wind's going to blow, the rain's going to come, the waves are going to get up. We'll go out and watch it. Maybe go ride it a little bit if it gets nice and clean. Get a little offshore wind. Get about a 6 to 8 foot, even though the water temperature is 55 degrees. Go out there and throw the boards in because everybody's kind of hoping that's what's going to happen with this, and we'll be able to ride it and not have to wade through it on the highway, on Highway 12. We'll be able to ride it later on next week.
All right, Sam. Thank you again for your time, man. You stay safe out there. Again, we'll check in with you soon.
All right, thanks.
All right, fascinating stuff there. Always a good time when Sam is on the show, on the program. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Sure.
Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. All right, let's talk about it. We've been talking about it for a lot. It's on your minds at home. We're talking about the weather. Becca Bursall is here in studio. Great insight from our friend Sam Walker. We were just talking about that during the break.
Yes, we have had him on Weather Impact Live as a guest many times, and he's an expert on all things happening across the beaches in North Carolina. Such a great asset, as we don't have sometimes the eyes and the ears in and around those cities and small towns. So great insight from him as always.
Well, okay, so I'm looking at some of these shots. Are these live? Is this live
Is this
right
live?
here? Okay, I thought this was
Eastern to Western
What
North
is going
Carolina.
on, Becca?
It is snowing. It has been snowing in the mountains. So you're like, well, we've got total sunshine here in Charlotte. So this is what happens when a cold front passes and we get northwest winds. This is called upslope snow. When you get winds from the northwest, they get backed up against the mountains. They go up, create clouds and precipitation in the form of snow. So oftentimes when we see snow just in the mountains, nowhere else, this is where we see more of that classic setup. Beach Mountain Ski Resort was actually closed yesterday because of the conditions. They are back open today.
People are out there.
People are out and about enjoying a little bit of fresh ice and probably some fresh snow, as I'm sure they will be making a lot of it as we go into this week. But a very snowy scene over towards Boone, Banner Elk, portions of Blowing Rock, and of course Beach Mountain as well. This is what we're seeing across the greater Charlotte area. Over towards Kannapolis, we are still hanging on to some of that sleet and freezing rain combo. You can see it right on the baseball field there. Everywhere else, it's very slushy. Things are melting fast. You can actually hear it when you step outdoors as temperatures are above freezing. It is now 39 here in the Charlotte Metro, 38 in Gastonia, 31 over towards Hickory, but it is much colder up in the mountains. It is 13 degrees and those winds are blowing as well, so there's quite a bit of a wind chill factor. So yes, today featuring chilly sunshine, but next we're tracking the coldest air of the season so far tonight and early tomorrow morning. And yes, we'll address the rumors of more weekend weather on the way, winter weather I should say. This is what you're looking at into the overnight hours. So heading tomorrow morning, temperatures will be dropping into the lower teens, potentially even single digits outside of the Charlotte Metro, but wind chills will at least make it feel like these single digits. The record low tomorrow is 6 degrees back in 1940, so I don't think we'll get quite there into the single digits. However, we have the chance to tie the second coldest January 27th, the last coldest one was in 2000, so 26 years ago. You'll definitely want to drip your faucets tonight. Generally, when temperatures get 28 degrees for 4 hours or more, which is exactly what we're expecting, that's when you'll want to drip those faucets. You could also open up your cabinets. That will allow your pipes to feel a little bit more of that warmer air. You'll want to do this before you go to bed tonight. Here's the thing, going into this week, we are going to have very cold temperatures each and every morning, so you will want to kind of use this into practice and make it into motion as we go into the entirety of the week. There is a concern with everything that is melting that it is going to be refreezing pretty quickly. I'd say right after the sun sets is when we're going to see temperatures significantly drop, but especially into Tuesday morning. So there could be some slick spots on the roadways. Just be aware of some black ice. Don't make any sudden movements. Have both hands on the steering wheel if you do have to head to work or school tomorrow. Checking in on the local sleet totals if you haven't already. Gamewell picked up the most, 3 inches of sleet. Concord, 1.5 inches. Belmont, a little over an inch. In uptown Charlotte, right around 1 inch of sleet. Of course, that was on top of all the freezing rain combo that we saw in between the two. So Concord picked up 1/2 inch of ice accretion. Maiden and Monroe, around 1/3 of an inch. In uptown Charlotte and Indian Trail, close to around 1/4. Now that the winter weather has left us, we're focusing on the cold. So you may have gotten a notification on your phone that you are under a cold weather advisory by the National Weather Service. So that goes for basically the foothills all the way into our South Carolina counties. This is going to be for very cold temperatures and even dangerous wind chills going into tonight, and an extreme cold warning is in place in the pink for the mountains. The cold isn't going anywhere. It is going to be sticking with us and remain about 10 to even 15 degrees is below average for this time of year. You'll especially feel it in the morning. Each and every day this week will be well below freezing. We're talking teens and 20s. As we go into this weekend, we're going to be watching for yet another cool down, which, yes, could bring us some winter weather, but for sure will bring us the cold. By Sunday and Monday morning, we're finally back into the upper teens once again, gradually warming up as we go into that first full week of February. So highs, 30s and 40s this week, and then here comes that drop down with a high of 27 degrees on Saturday. So we'll show you what that looks like on our Futurecast coming up momentarily. This afternoon is honestly not that bad. We've got a breeze, so certainly making for a little bit of a wind chill factor. Feels like around 31 degrees as of now, with an actual air temperature of 38. Highs will get close to about 40 degrees. We will be looking ahead towards that next chance for some precipitation starting Friday night going into the weekend. So it's actually going to be a nor'easter setup. So more details to come, but I will say as of now, it's looking like models are in some sort of agreement that the Carolinas could see winter weather, potentially in the form of snow Friday night, and having the chance to do so into Sunday morning. So you can see off towards the coast, that's the nor'easter setup that we're looking at. So we've got lots to fine tune between now and then. A lot could change, but that is what we have our eyes on in terms of our next chance of winter weather. So hey, it's January. We could have our second winter system headed our way. That's just what happens when you're in the thick of winter in this Jerry Hutchinson 7-day forecast. So today and tomorrow will be chilly. We'll have some sunshine at least. Highs will be warming up, upper 30s, a little bit warmer as we go later in midweek, meaning morning temperatures will be in the 20s, not the teens, and afternoon highs will be in the 40s, not the 30s. And then here comes that cold weather. Saturday and Sunday, highs in the 20s and 30s with the potential of yet more flurries in the forecast.
Oh, back up. More
Let's let out
flurries?
all our sighs.
Carlene says you can't wait. Carlene says you can't wait.
No, that's not what I said. That's not what I said at all.
Oh, I thought that's what you
I
said.
said I'm over it.
Oh,
You know,
I thought you
I'm
said
over
you
it.
can't wait
When is
for
spring?
it.
No.
We need to fast forward to
need
spring.
spring.
I'm tired of January. It's such a long month.
Dry skin. My lips are always chapped. I'm over it.
I'm
you know?
zapping my dog every time I touch him, and I feel bad.
Right.
January has been a long year.
It
It's been a long year. Oh, but it's still early. We don't know. It's still early, but it's going to be cold this weekend.
It is gonna be cold,
That's
yes.
without a doubt. I think we can guarantee that.
Yes.
Becca, all right, before you give us any more snow updates and more snow
More bad
estimates.
news. As if
more
she's
bad
the one
news.
that's bringing it.
It's Becca's fault. No, it's not.
Hand-delivering
It's not. No, thank you for your time. Thank you for stopping in,
course.
Becca. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. All right, so we are continuing to follow aftermath and get a look at what's happening outside and updates of what's happening outside after this weekend's ice storm and sleet. And so I'm sure you guys took a lot of pictures. I saw it on social media, videos, and thank you for submitting stuff here through the Near Me feature on our WCNC Charlotte mobile app of what you're seeing outside to help us tell the story. But look, the ice storm, it came with some changes, some adjustments of schedules. That's what CMS, that's what local school districts, also CATS. They gave us an update this morning. Jay Monreal got a chance to speak with officials there. Let's take a listen in.
Time right now is 10:31 on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. All right, we're on the other side of this icy event here in the Charlotte area. Still going to have refreeze as a concern, definitely after the sun goes down later on tonight and the overnight. That will affect things certainly for tomorrow. And then really just even getting out and about today, things are going to be tricky and touch and go, although for the most part, from all accounts, it sounds like things are going really well. Public transportation, a concern as well. And so Brett Baldeck from CATS joining us here on the phone. Brett, good morning to you. I know you've been busy over the weekend.
Yes, good morning. We actually just started service on the Blue Line and some of our bus routes about 30 minutes ago. So that's good news, but our Gold Line is still suspended at this time.
Okay, very good. Walk us through what the weekend was like then for CATS, and was it everything anticipated?
Yes. So I know a lot of people have reached out to us, or a few people have reached out to us, and we're wondering why they're seeing the Blue Line trains run this weekend, but there were no passengers on them. That is because we had ice cutters installed on those trains, and they were cutting down all the ice on the lines throughout the weekend to ensure that we could restart service at 10 o'clock this morning. So one note about the Blue Line service is we're running on a 30-minute frequency instead of the normal 15. So just keep that in mind if you are traveling today. As well as our bus routes, they are open and operational, but we have a list on our website, ridetransit.org, and I think you guys also have the list from our press release of some routes that are not operational today, and those are mostly our neighborhood and side road routes because those roads are still not treated. Now, with that said, I know you mentioned the refreezing, so we are preparing for that this evening, and we are going to suspend all services at midnight instead of 2 a.m. so we can get a lot of our employees as well as our customers home before the deep freeze that's going to happen at the 2 a.m. and on range. So we're just asking everyone to be patient if they are traveling today. We're going to have another update this afternoon about our operations for Tuesday. But as of right now, the big thing is the Blue Line and all major bus routes are running.
Okay, and how about the Gold Line? That's still suspended.
Correct. The Gold Line is still suspended. We hope to have that back up and running by Tuesday. But again, we're going to have another meeting this afternoon and provide everyone, all our customers and you guys in the local media with an update this afternoon about when the Gold Line will reopen tomorrow.
All right. And once things do improve, how long typically does it take to get everything back up to a normal operation?
So we're hoping by tomorrow afternoon or at least Wednesday we should be up to normal operations. The issue that we're having with the Gold Line is just, that's at the mercy of road conditions. And we also haven't had the ice cutters running on the Gold Line because we were really focused on making sure the Blue Line was open and operational. So once, I know it's melting a little bit right now, which is great news, but it's a double-edged sword because it's melting and then it could refreeze. So we're really hoping we can get back to normal operations by tomorrow afternoon, if not Wednesday morning.
How about in the way of incidents over the weekend, buses sliding or any equipment issues, anything reported in that regard?
So we had some buses that were sliding late Friday night, which is why we made the decision on Saturday to suspend service completely. It's not something that we wanted to do. It's not something we do often, but what we found was the temperatures, especially Sunday morning, were so, I actually messed up my days, I'm sorry. So Saturday night was when the buses were sliding. Sunday morning was when we made the decision to suspend service, and that was because the temperatures were below 20 degrees, and we worked with our partners at CDOT, and they told us that the salt was not melting the ice as quickly due to those cold temperatures. So that's really the only curveball I believe that we were thrown, was we were hoping the temperatures would have been a little bit warmer for the salt to work. So other than that, we had no major issues this weekend. And we appreciate everyone that stayed home.
Absolutely. And how are the operators? How are they holding up?
The operators are doing well. We've put a lot of them up in local hotels, and we appreciate their dedication to making sure that people are able to travel. So we're recognizing our operators that have been working around the clock, and we appreciate all of the essential workers that we have at CATS as well as across the Queen City that have made sure that operations continue as much as they can.
All right. And as far as riders who are monitoring, CATS's next move, what is the best way to keep on top of that?
Yes, they can download our CATS Pass app or visit ridetransit.org, and that will have all of the latest updates.
All right. And then we're going to look for an update from you guys later on this afternoon?
Correct. We should have an update by 3 p.m. today.
All right, we'll look for that. Brett Baldick from CATS, thank you so much for joining us here live on Live Impact News. Appreciate the latest update there.
Thank you.
All right, so we are expecting to get an update from CATS in about less than an hour, probably around 30 minutes or so. We are going to go to break right now. We'll be back in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Let's get another check of our forecast. Here's meteorologist Majestic Storm.
Sunny skies from Monroe out there towards Dallas. Sunny skies trying to break through right here in the Queen City, but it is gorgeous there in Kannapolis. You can still see that layer of sleet on the ground. Not just sleet, but remember yesterday we had significant freezing rain on top of it. Now let's take a look at about how much sleet we actually accumulated yesterday. Gamewell, 3 inches of sleet. If you don't know where that is, that's just north of Morganton. Morganton, you got 2 inches of sleet yesterday. Concord, 1.5 inches. 1.5, seeing an inch out towards Davidson, uptown Charlotte. And then on top of that, of course, we had the freezing rain, really just making for horrible conditions. I hope everyone stayed safe and at home, stayed close to our weather team. Concord accumulated about a half of an inch of freezing rain. Now, yesterday, that was a massive winter storm system. It expanded all the way out towards Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and for several states all across the south, all the way up to the East Coast. And for us, we are still under winter weather advisories for a little bit longer until this afternoon. It's just because some areas are still a bit slick and icy. I was covering traffic this morning on WCNC, and I'll tell you, we have seen really nice conditions on our major interstates. But if you drive with too much confidence or if you're driving too fast, you can still, of course, drive off and slide off the roads because there could still be some slick and icy spots. I-40, I-45 continues to look okay. South Carolina cameras have been fine all throughout the day today as well. Temperatures are a little chilly out there as we're heading into the afternoon, and it feels even colder than that, especially up towards the high country, feeling like it's below zero at times. And let me tell you, that wind is going to be the biggest problem for you up in the mountains. 40 to 45 mile per hour northwesterly winds. That is opening up the door for that bitter cold Arctic air to blast through. Still breezy here in the Charlotte metro area. That takes us into tonight and into our Tuesday. So dangerous cold is on the way, really for all of us, but especially for our mountain counties. That's where we do have extreme cold warnings going into place today, straight into your Tuesday. Here's the thing, out in the high country and in the mountains, this is what we're seeing here in Blowing Rock. You can tell how windy it is by just looking at that flag. Those power lines swaying back and forth, feeling like you're below zero. That sleet and that snow that did fall for some of you, kind of just blowing across the streets as well and off the roofs. And unfortunately, that wind is going to be problematic throughout the whole day today. 18 degrees, that's your high temperature in Boone. 17 in Jefferson, only 38 degrees for us here in Charlotte. Overnight tonight, that is the problem and what we're getting you prepared for next. We're concerned that the sunshine and the warmer temperatures throughout the day here in the Queen City and surrounding areas, that is going to help to melt a lot of that sleet and freezing rain. But then overnight tonight, it gets so cold that we will likely see that hard freeze lead to very dangerous road conditions tomorrow. No question about it, anywhere from 15 to 20 below is what it's going to feel like up in the mountains. So make sure you are prepared for it. Even in and around Charlotte tomorrow morning is going to be brutal. Here's our Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Enjoy that sunshine today. It's sure nice to see the sunshine after the storm. Overnight lows tonight dropping again about 10, 11 degrees here in Charlotte, not even touching 40 degrees for our high temperature tomorrow. Warming up a little bit, but we should be at 53 this time of the year. We're also watching another storm system moving in Friday and into Saturday. Stay close to WCNC.
I just wanted the music to play for a little bit. I like the music. Hey, what can you say? It's Monday, guys. Thank you for, speaking of that, thank you for staying with us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivan. This is where we break all the news. This is where we give you updates on the weather, minute-by-minute updates, I should add, and minute-by-minute updates when it comes to the news. So make sure you hang with us all day here on WCNC Plus, Live Impact News. Let's talk about it again. This ice storm, this winter storm, man. We got a lot of ice. We got a lot of sleet. Nashville, Tennessee, got a lot of ice, a lot of sleet. A good swath of the country got something. That includes New York City. Man, New York got a lot of snow. The nice fluffy snow, Carlene. Stuff that
I mean, it's fluffy for us, but once you're in the city like that, you got all the cars and people. Like, I don't know how fluffy it is, and after a little bit in New York City, you know.
New York City, New Jersey.
This is JFK, by the way.
That's JFK. Yeah.
Sorry.
There are a lot of people on the roads.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people.
It's New York.
It's New York. I get it. Folks got things to do. A city that really never sleeps.
Yep.
Let's check in with New York City's new mayor, Zohran Mamdani, holding a press conference this morning, giving us an update on that winter storm that hit the area. Let's take a listen in.
SNY crew continue to plow our streets. A hazardous travel advisory remains in effect. As we announced yesterday, today is a virtual learning day for our students, with exceptions for high school students and schools serving only grades 6 through 12 that are observing a previously scheduled professional development day. All after-school programs, adult education, and school-based programming have been canceled. As of 9:15 a.m. this morning, we have over 400,000 parents, student, and staff logons. Again, as a reminder, high school students and grades 6 through 8 students co-located with high school students had a previously scheduled day off for professional development, so our decision to go remote impacts a portion of our school system, about 500,000 students who are scheduled to be in school on Monday. I did visit a classroom this morning remotely alongside the chancellor and reiterated my offer to students that they could pelt me in the face with a snowball. They were very excited about that and asked for a time and place. I said, you can find me anywhere in New York City. There remain some interruptions to service. Alternate side parking is suspended today and will also be suspended tomorrow. Payment at parking meters will remain in effect. The Staten Island Ferry is continuing to run on a modified schedule every 20 minutes. And I want to also ask New Yorkers to be patient with garbage collection as DSNY prioritizes snow removal in the immediate short term. But our city is steadily coming back online. Lyft's suspension of city bike service has been lifted. The New York City Ferry is running once again and operating at 90% capacity. Buses and subways are also running normally, though I would encourage New Yorkers to budget some extra time on their commutes. Our goal is for all services to be fully restored by tomorrow, with all streets cleared, students back at school in person, and our city back to normal, albeit with a lot of snow piled up. I am grateful to all the New Yorkers who heeded our guidance to stay inside and to practice caution, and to every person who contributed to the citywide effort that allowed us to endure this storm successfully. Please continue to monitor the cold temperatures that we are expecting over this coming week and to look out for one another. As always, New York, stay warm, stay prepared, stay safe. Thank you very much. Now our Chancellor, Kumar Samuels.
Hello, good morning. So this morning, I not only logged on with the mayor to a class where we read The Snowy Day, I also logged on with my own daughter before I left home. And so I was pleased to announce that both times we were able to log on, like most of the rest of the city, to our classrooms. Things have gone very well this morning. It was a smooth start to the day. Students were able to log into their virtual classroom quickly and get right into their school day. Schools and families who've been having any issues can call 718-935-5100. I've known that number forever, even as a principal. And so we also have 8,000 staff who are, on the ground spreading salt, deploying plows and shoveling to make sure that tomorrow we will be ready for school. And I tell all those people, thank you so much for your work. Thank you so much for your support. We have also opened 10 high schools across the city as warming shelters for families, for people looking for shelter. And we have school safety agents deployed in all of those situations. New Yorkers, your schools are a part of the city's ecosystem. We remain connected today, and we will continue to remain connected, and our schools will be ready for opening when the weather permits. Thank you very much.
Please. Thank you. Good morning. I just want to start by thanking the thousands of city employees and volunteers who worked through this weekend shoveling snow, responding to emergencies, serving our most vulnerable, conducting outreach and coordination overnight and in dangerous conditions. From sanitation workers, first responders, DOT crews, park staff, to my team in emergency management, these people really showed up when we needed them most. And at the same time, this weekend tested us in more ways than one. Alongside the major snowstorm, we faced prolonged extreme cold, as well as 2 tragic fires in the Bronx. And although snow cleanup is underway, I want to be very, very clear that we are not out of the woods yet. We still have a lot of work to do. Dangerous weather conditions persist throughout the week with frigid temperatures, placing utilities and infrastructure under pressure, and vulnerable New Yorkers remain at risk. This reality has guided our response from the start. It's guided our planning and will continue to guide our work in the days ahead. And it's important for everyone to understand that as a city, we do have a lot more work to do. This was the first major snowstorm New York City has seen in years. We stayed focused on getting clear, timely information to New Yorkers early and often. Tens of thousands of New Yorkers signed up for Notify NYC during this storm so they could stay informed about travel conditions, warming centers, and safety guidance. Knowing is half the battle. Informed New Yorkers make safer decisions, and New Yorkers did exactly that. People stayed off the roads when possible. They checked in on neighbors, and they took advantage of city resources. We were able to open, as the Chancellor said, and the Mayor, warming centers across all 5 boroughs. At Emergency Management, we coordinated this response around the clock through our Emergency Operations Center, connecting agencies and partners together 24/7 in real time, ensuring our plows were able to operate across all 5 boroughs. Emergency crews, police officers, ambulances were able to respond and serve. The Mayor and his team, they really did a great job empowering agencies to act early, communicate clearly, and work together. The support we received from City Hall throughout these emergencies allowed our agencies to coordinate quickly, act early, and respond efficiently. This made it possible throughout the day yesterday and overnight to move resources where they were needed most, keep New Yorkers informed, and unified our response. As I prepare to step away as commissioner, I want to just say how lucky I have been alongside the team at Emergency Management and all of our sister agencies. I found that, I found that government really is truly at its best when it's a team sport. We've tackled this team just about everything from, I'm supposed to get emotional in 2 weeks, not today. Everything from one of the largest humanitarian crises this city that has ever arrived on our shores, tragic mass shootings, a tragic shipwreck. We've seen record-setting rainfall, heat, other extreme weather. We've had major cyber incidents, space weather, air pollution from Canada, aviation accidents. We've had building collapses, water main breaks, an endless number of fires. Up until now, my amazing First Deputy, Christina Farrell, and I have had it all, except a major snowstorm. And one of the things I want to say is I'm very confident that no matter what the future holds, this team has it. This team is incredible. And Mr. Mayor, I also want to say to you, you really are building a great team here at City Hall. In the short time we've worked together, it's been a busy couple of weeks. And I've seen you and your team show up for New Yorkers on their worst days through 5-alarm fires and more. It's been a busy few weeks. And I'm confident that with this team, including your amazing Deputy Mayor for Operations, Julia Gerson, and so many others, our team at NYSM, and the thousands of men and women who serve this city, who show up day in and day out for the people of this great city. I know this city is in great, great hands. So thank you all so much.
Good morning. Yesterday, 5,000 sanitation workers showed up to drive plows and spread salt on highways, roads, and bike lanes. While everyone else was warm inside or having fun in the snow with loved ones, they were working around the clock to help keep New Yorkers safe. And they're still here. We remain on a full force 24/7 operation for several days to come as part of a full cleanup following the storm. It was the largest and most intense winter storm to hit New York City in about 5 years. And I want to remind New Yorkers about what to expect from a robust DNCY operation following the storm. Last night and today, we plowed every single street multiple times, running routes consistently and repeatedly based on conditions on the ground. Because of that work today, the streets are passable for emergency vehicles and people who must drive to get to work. The same is true for bike lanes, which are so critical for New Yorkers in the delivery field. But this is an ongoing process. Those huge mounds of snow can't stay at the corners. They need to be hauled away. And as New Yorkers address their sidewalks or dig out their cars, bike lanes and roadways will still need additional passes from DSNY. We are not slowing down. We have hundreds of emergency snow shovelers working today with an emphasis on making sure areas around schools are ready for tomorrow. We have hired extra equipment for snow hauling and ridge breaking, and given the deep and ongoing cold, we will soon activate snow melting operations, setting up large machines that can each melt up to 120 tons per hour. In short, we will continue to address all conditions throughout the week. Property owners, please remember to shovel and salt your sidewalks so that pedestrians can get where they need to get to safely. The city is open, and it will get more and more open in the hours ahead, thanks to the work of this department and this administration at large. Thank you.
Start on topic questions, please. Yeah, Heather, go ahead. Hi, Mayor. How are you?
Hi, how are you, Heather?
I just want to address the 2 fires in the Bronx. Both of them had, unfortunately, deaths related to them. Speaker Menon, as well as Councilmember Pierre Sanchez, said that they were concerned about the lack of clarity and coordination when they got to the scene, particularly with information being communicated to residents, whether it was safe to go back into their homes. Just wanted to get your response on that. And particularly in District 14, they've seen a number of fires. Usually it's a big area where we see, they said 6 fires since December. Is there more resources being activated to that community to address these concerns?
So this fire, frankly, the 2 fires that we saw over the weekend and this fire that you're asking about specifically, it was a tragedy. And my heart, and for all of us up here, goes out to the family of the deceased. The FDNY was at the scene of that fire about 5 minutes after the call was placed. The fire was under control within about 80 minutes. And right now, the FDNY is conducting a full investigation, as they do. The preliminary cause that's been shared with us at this point is that of electrical wiring. And our city agencies were on the scene alongside FDNY, including DOB and HPD, to serve residents. And I spoke to Councilmember Sanchez directly yesterday evening, and we remained in close coordination to ensure that every single affected resident was given transportation to a hotel. And what I will say just broadly is, and Commissioner Iskell spoke about this in his own remarks, but a number of the times where we've seen each other have been at 5-alarm fires. We have seen each other at a number of the worst moments for New Yorkers. And on Saturday, I was at the first fire that occurred in the Bronx over the weekend. And when I met with the woman in whose home that fire began, and she leaned in for a hug, and I embraced her, I could still smell the ash on her clothing. And this fire, it consumes people's lives. People lost, in some cases, New Yorkers lost their life. In far more cases, New Yorkers lost their pets, they lost their belongings, they lost the things that really give them a sense of self. And I'm very thankful, frankly, for our partners in the council, as well as for our city agencies and our partners with the American Red Cross, because what I've seen so often is that it is in a moment of loss, of devastation, and it's at that very moment where people need help the most, and I'm proud of the work that people are doing.
Just to clarify,
Yeah.
the Grand Street fire was the electrical.
Yes, the second fire, yes. Thank you.
Hi, Mayor. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
2 sort of forward-leaning questions with this big storm being chased by very, very cold temperatures, particularly in the overnight hours. First, what is the sidewalk clear deadline, and are you worried with this kind of sleeting down ice last night and then already very cold, a lot of New Yorkers just simply won't be able to do it, and then what? And then also, you mentioned a number of removals of homeless individuals. We did have some people found deceased. Are you doing anything different moving forward into this next phase of the storm and cold as far as getting people off the streets?
So I'll answer the second question first, and then I'm going to pass it over to our Deputy Mayor Curson for the first question. So first and foremost, I send my deepest condolences to the families and the loved ones of those New Yorkers that lost their lives. Any loss of life is truly a tragedy, and that's why we're continuing to urge New Yorkers to get to a safe and warm location, and also if they see anyone who is in need of assistance, to call 311, because as we are under a code blue, those calls to 311 are then rerouted to calls to 911. Now, what it means to be in a code blue, which continues today and will continue this week, is that shelters have relaxed their intake policies. Whereas typically you might have to go through a set of paperwork or processes, have to go to one shelter to go to another. What we are seeing for a code blue is that no one is turned away from these kinds of shelters. And that is a large reason why we're seeing the successful placement of more than 170 New Yorkers into a wide variety of places, vast majority being shelters. I also just want to say a deep note of gratitude to our city workers, especially at the Department of Homeless Services, who have been conducting outreach to homeless New Yorkers every 2 hours across this city. And what we are seeing that this is also a reminder that if anyone sees someone out in the cold, call that number, connect them with services. We don't want New Yorkers to be out there.
Yes, thank you. So we are looking for people to have cleared the sidewalks in front of their property before 11 a.m. this morning or as soon as possible. And if people see sidewalks that are not cleared, please report that to 311. Thank you.
And I'll just say before we go to the next thing, this is also an opportunity to help for New Yorkers to help others in need. Today, this morning, when we asked students what they were going to do, a number of them spoke about snow angels, spoke about throwing snowballs, and there were also a number of students who spoke about helping their parents with shoveling. And I think that, yesterday as we were heading back from our press conference, I saw there was about an 85-year-old woman in Astoria who was struggling to shovel, and a very young neighbor of hers came over and started to help her, and then we helped together. And that's the kind of city that we also love and know.
Yeah, go ahead. Good morning, Mayor. I like your Timberlands, by the way.
Thank you.
New York City snow here. This is one of the first big challenges of your administration. What have you learned so far about yourself, about your leadership style, and also what have you learned about the city resources, the readiness, what's still needed, what really excelled? What have you learned so far?
Well, I think one of the key things that I've learned is just the immense amount of work that city workers have been putting in. Most of our attention when it comes to a storm like this is when the snow is falling. But the only way that you can actually respond to the level of snowfall we saw is that if you're prepared for it. Yesterday, the first snowfall hit Staten Island at 5 a.m. Sanitation trucks were out salting across the city at 5:10 a.m. That's only possible because they made the decision. And I really want to say also thank you to our commissioner for increasing staffing of our 12-hour shifts, first to 2,000 sanitation workers per 12-hour shift, and then to 2,500 sanitation workers per 12-hour shift. And yesterday when I went at 6 a.m. to welcome a number of the sanitation workers who were coming back from a shift, we're about to go on to another shift for the shift change, what I saw also were the men and women of this city who so often are not recognized in the work that we're talking about. Our city government's ability to meet this moment, it is in part because of the leadership of everyone up here, and it is also in large part, frankly, because of the work of the men and women whose names most New Yorkers will never know, whose work they will never see. And I also think the other thing I'd say is for all that's said about our city, that we are always in a hurry, that we are brash, that we are rude, what I think sometimes gets missed is just how much New Yorkers care for each other. And yesterday as I went through the city, I saw so many New Yorkers who were just lending a helping hand to people whose names they didn't know, whose stories they didn't know, but all they knew about them was that they too were New Yorkers. They too deserved a helping hand.
Anything you learned about yourself, your own leadership style?
That people care a lot if I don't wear a hat. And I will tell you, I was brushing it off, and then towards the end of the day, my hair started to freeze, and I did put on a nice beanie, and I was much warmer. So I appreciate the feedback. I will take it moving forward.
Yeah, Melissa and Kate.
Thank you. Hi, Mayor. How are you?
How's it going?
If I understand it correctly, Code Blue, doesn't Code Blue, in addition to being relaxed shelter rules, also mean that people, if they're outside in life-threatening temperatures, can be forced to come off the streets? Isn't that also part of Code Blue, and is that happening? I wonder if you can give me a sense, or anyone of, how many times has that happened in this storm where, someone has been told, no, you can't stay here, you have to come in? And then also, is there anything else you can tell us to fill in the blanks on the circumstances of the deaths of those people who we initially thought might have been homeless but ended up not being homeless?
I think I'll answer the second question, then I'll pass it over for the first. I think this is part and parcel of any fast-moving situation, that we always want to share with New Yorkers what we know at the time. And so at this time, what we know is that a number of those 7 New Yorkers who lost their lives had interactions with our shelter system in the past. It is still too early to share a broader diagnosis or a cause of death. However, as you've said, and I think as many New Yorkers know, this kind of cold, we haven't seen this kind of cold for 8 years, and it is debilitating. Yesterday, we were driving over the Triborough, I think it was, and as we were driving, I saw a man who had pulled over his car. We stopped, I went out, and he had tried to avoid a car that had made a sudden stop, and in doing so had skidded over to the side of the bridge. And he came out, and he told me, he was telling me what happened. We were calling TBTA. We were looking to get a tow truck for him. I called his boss. I said, please give him a few more hours before he can get there. He was a security guard. The boss didn't believe that it was me. We went back and forth. He finally believed it. And I looked over at this man, and he was wearing a jacket, and I asked him, you should zip up your jacket. It's very cold. He said, my zipper is broken. And the reason I share this with you is that there are many New Yorkers who are having to go through these kinds of conditions without everything that they need. And too often they're made to feel as if it's their responsibility. And I want to make very clear from our city government that actually we view your problems as our problems. We want to be there to help you. And what I've seen city workers do in providing that kind of warmth, on Saturday morning when I went to the warming center after we saw that fire in the Bronx, and I was there alongside Speaker Hastie and State Senator Jamal Bailey and Councilmember Kevin Riley, was that New Yorkers were at a loss of what could happen next. This was before the worst of the storm was to hit. What could they do? And it was through the kindness, the service of city workers and also the American Red Cross that they were finding a moment to get a sense of themselves. So I'll pass it over for your first question. You're very welcome.
Good morning. Yes, if an individual is in danger, right, danger to themselves or to others, we will involuntarily remove individuals to the hospital. That is our solution of last resort. Wherever possible, we really try to build relationships and trust with the individuals that we serve. Over this weekend, there were 3 involuntary removals to the hospital, but as the mayor has noted, many, many more voluntary removals, and that is based on the long history and relationship building that outreach workers do, and to convince people that this is in fact a truly exceptional circumstance and they need to accept a placement.
Yeah, Katie.
Hi, Mayor. So did you give the guy a jacket?
No, we actually put him in his car and gave him hand warmers, got the heat back up.
I wanted to ask, one of the things I noticed, and I've heard complaints from people, is that bus stops haven't been cleared, and even crosswalks, like even this morning coming to City Hall, Park Place, and Broadway, like it was about 2 feet high when they cleared the sidewalk. So whose responsibility is it, particularly for bus stops? I saw yesterday tons of, elderly getting on buses, and it was difficult for people to climb over the snow pile. So I don't know if that's the property owners who have the bus stops in front, or whose responsibility is that, and if the city will step in to get some of these cleared.
Yeah. I'll have our deputy mayor speak.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it is the Department of Transportation's responsibility to clear bus stops, and we have activated extra resources from our contractor and our DOT staff to be working on that. This was sort of an extraordinary amount of snow, and as you know, all of our workers are working to do everything around the city to clear snow in front of their properties, but we are working to clear all those bus stops.
Do you have data on how many were cleared? I saw, anecdotally a photo of Brooklyn, but I can tell you, like Queens Boulevard yesterday, major artery, none of the bus stops were cleared, and the buses were still running. So do you have data on how many bus stops were cleared yesterday and today?
Not immediately, but people should report those when they see them so that we can respond.
I want to go back to the question about the homeless people who are on the streets. And I know that getting 170 people into shelter is momentous and hard to do. But there are sometimes 3,000 or 4,000 people on the street at any given time. I'm wondering, when you do this outreach, where are you going? Are you going to the encampments? Are you going to the subways? Are you going to the other places where people seek warmth to try to convince them to come out of the cold? And how do you feel about the fact that some people have to be brought in involuntarily, especially since the man apparently froze to death at Junction Park in Queens?
Okay, I think the work of these incredible city outreach workers is both of their own planning, where they know where they have to go to actually find and meet and make the case to homeless New Yorkers, but also it's in response to New Yorkers' calls to 311. And that's why it's so helpful, is that I know there are so many New Yorkers who see someone out in this kind of cold and know what we all know, which is that no one should be out in this kind of cold. And when they make that phone call, that also informs where the outreach workers are going. So it has to be proactive. It cannot be a wait for homeless New Yorkers to come to us. We have to go out there and make the case directly. And I think that the 170 placements as you said, it's not only a testament to the outreach work that's being done, it's also a glimpse into the far larger number of conversations that are being had. And then when it comes to involuntary commitment, I think, as was said, this is a last resort. However, it is a resort when it is of a medical danger to a New Yorker to stay out there.
I just wonder how frustrated you are as a mayor who cares about people, that when we know that there are 3,000 or 4,000 people on the street, and you can only get 170 to come in and get shelter, and you know it's going to be colder and colder as the week goes on.
You know, I think, first I would say the census of homeless New Yorkers, especially in a moment of this kind of cold, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what it has been over these last few days. However, there is a hope count coming up this week where we will get a more accurate number of how many New Yorkers are homeless here across our city. For me, this is a moment where the city can show itself as a government that can meet the needs of New Yorkers, and also one that has to listen to New Yorkers. Because, Marcia, you know, you had flagged in the past that you'd spoken to a homeless New Yorker who didn't want to go to a shelter because they didn't think that they would be offered a single bed on their own. And so part of our outreach has also been, how do we ensure we're offering a wide variety of options for a New Yorker to come in? Because the most important thing is to get that New Yorker off the street, get them into the warmth. I can tell you that the cold, we pride ourselves on being tough in this city, but after 8 years of not facing this kind of cold, we might be numb to what it actually means for people. And the other thing I would just say is the dangers are not just in the conditions, but also how we respond to the conditions. So for those who are shoveling and who have been shoveling, we remind you to give yourself multiple passes at that snow, not to try to get it all done in one go. The FDNY has also shared with us, you know, in the past there have been medical emergencies as a result of not taking the correct approach with snow shoveling. And don't find your form from the way that I do it.
Today, because that man that I spoke to, your staff actually got him a bed, a single bed, and he went in and got shelter, so he wasn't on the street because of your action.
Thank you, Marcia. That was also because of you having flagged that. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Marcia. Julia, go ahead. Yeah, Mr. Mayor, you seem to have been all over the place yesterday. Can you talk about that and where you went and what did you want to see or look for or look at? And number two, do you plan on having all schools open tomorrow?
That is our hope, and that's what we're planning for right now. We will share as soon as we get to the definitive. I will tell you that, you know, yesterday began early, but frankly, that's the time it began for many New Yorkers who are working hard, right? I was out of the house, I think, before 5 a.m. We headed out to the shift change, and then from there, at the shift change, we went to Central Park, where we saw a number of other workers who were hard at work shoveling. From there, we went to a press conference, and then from there, we drove through a number of neighborhoods just on our way back to just keep an eye out. And so there was one instance where somebody was trying to get their car out. We all got to a shovel, helped them out. There was another where somebody, this was at a NYCHA development, was trying to get their car in. And we met them at the beginning of the parking lot. They had an entire bed of snow. It was, you know, an uncle and his 3 nephews with 1 shovel. And so we got to work and helped him in. We drove into Queens. You know, we met a man whose tires were far too low and he was not able to drive through the street. So we shoveled, we got him out, and then we were about to call sanitation, and then there they were. There were 2 plow trucks that were just right there coming in at the perfect time. We went through Astoria, and this is all on the way back to Gracie, and that's where we saw this 85-year-old woman who was trying to shovel. There was a 20-something-year-old young woman who was helping her. Then we started to help her. There were a whole number of situations that we saw. But I think at the heart of it was just, yesterday was a glimpse into what city workers do every single day. And truly, the depth of my appreciation, I don't know if I can fully communicate it, because they are doing the impossible, they are doing the incredible, and for them, it's the ordinary. And that's just a testament to the incredible people we have here and the leadership that also leads them every single day.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Hi, Liz. How's it going?
Good. I spoke to Queensborough President Donovan Richards last night, and I asked him for his assessment. He said as of last night, he would give you an A. But one thing he was seeing, and he acknowledges this is not the city's responsibility, but he got complaints of people being stuck on the highways. And I was wondering if that was something that the city noticed too. And his question was, could there have been better coordination between the city and state on clearing those highways and getting people moving? Because he said his own mother got stuck on the highway.
I'll just pass it over.
As Commissioner Iscol mentioned, in our Emergency Operations Center, we had dozens of agencies represented, including state agencies, and actually the tow truck task force was coordinating tow trucks across the city, including on highways that are, maybe state-owned. And so we were responding in real time to everything that was happening, city, state, even some federal level coordination.
This is for Molly. Can she elaborate on the 3 folks who were forcibly removed, like the circumstances of it? And second, have the Adams-era shelter rules relating to migrants been relaxed? And if they have, when must migrants leave the shelters?
Yeah, thank you. I'm not going to get into the details of the 3 specific cases. I want to protect people's medical privacy. An individual who is not appropriately dressed, who is wet, who is unable to acknowledge that there are the real dangers. That is the kind of instance, particularly in this weather, where we'll take somebody to the hospital. And I do want to stress these are decisions that are made by clinicians, and the next step is to take somebody to a hospital where a doctor can assess them fully and determine what the next step is there, right? So this isn't, it's not incarceration, and it's not involuntarily removing people to shelter. It really is about a medical decision making. We'll take the people to the emergency department, and the doctors there will make the appropriate decision. With respect to the asylum seekers, there is only one designated asylum seeker site left in the city. That's the Bruckner site that's operated by the Housing Recovery Office. There are no discharges happening at this time.
When must they leave, or do you not know yet?
The long-term plan for the Bruckner site is still under development, but there are no time limits on their shelter stays.
Every migrant who needs shelter can get shelter.
Anybody in the city of New York who needs shelter can get shelter.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you. Hello, good morning, Ms. Mayor. I just want to get some clarity. I know you're not pinpointing the cause of death, but at this time, is New York City attributing the 7 deaths to this storm? That's one question, if we could get just some real clarity on that. And then the second question, I wonder if you're ready to give, I think this was part of the question that was previously being asked, if you give yourself and the city's response a grade for how you've done so far, and what was kind of you've talked about this, but what was your strategy going in? I know you looked at the kind of the failures of.
Hi, everyone. Vanessa Rufus taking over the Live Impact News studio. Hope you're having a great afternoon. We're going to pivot away from this feed to a brand new live feed we're watching right now from the West Coast. This is out of Sacramento. We've got the Speaker of the Assembly alongside the Senate President pro tempore talking about their solidarity they say they have with the people of Minnesota. This is after the deadly shooting of Veterans Affairs ICU nurse Alex Preddy. Let's listen in.
Cities or our states safer. Deporting violent criminals has been done before under both Republican and Democratic administrations. It's been done, and it has been done without chaos, without this violence, and without this disregard for basic human rights. And it's clear that President Trump and Kristi Noem, they don't care about those rights. And it's time for Congress. It's time for the United States Congress to stand up for the American people. No more murders. No more murders in our streets by out-of-control federal agents. No more armed men in masks detaining 5-year-old boys. No more saying that peaceful protesters are domestic terrorists.
That's right. That's right.
No more chaos. No more violence in our cities, in our communities. This has to stop, and it has to stop right now. I'm calling on our national Democratic leaders to stand resolutely against this president. And if that means shutting down the federal government, then so be it. Shut it down.
Shut it down.
And Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader, he has to lead with strength. Or if not, step aside and allow someone who will. And to every California Republican, I have this message. We need you to speak out.
Yep.
You cannot watch these videos coming out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and think that this is acceptable.
That's right.
We need your voice. We need your solidarity in standing up for American values. This is not about Democrats or Republicans. It's not left. It's not right. This is about our fundamental rights and freedoms. Silence those that are choosing to say nothing at all. That is a betrayal of our values, and it's a betrayal of our country. In this moment, we all must speak out, and speak out forcefully, peacefully, to defend what is moral and to defend what is right. And I want to thank the many members of the California legislature, our colleagues who are here with us, who have joined us here as a show of unity, of solidarity with the residents of Minnesota and with all Americans. And I look forward to sharing additional details on legislation aimed at further holding the federal government and ICE agents accountable. Many of those legislators here are already working on these bills at this moment. And so next, I want to welcome the Senate President Pro Tem, Ms. Monique Limon.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are here because we will not normalize what is happening in this country. It is not okay. It is not normal. We will not accept the harassment. We will not accept the deaths. We will not accept the injustice. We will not accept the illegal actions that are taking place every single day in this community. Last summer, we saw a death of a farm worker under the guise of immigration ICE agents. And these deaths have not stopped. They are in all corners of this country in this moment. They are going after the very values that make this country the country that we all strive to work for, to improve and to better. And those values, it is what is at stake, and the lives of the people who are standing up, who are speaking out, who are saying no to the madness, to the chaos, to the injustice, to the illegal actions that are happening. As I drove in to the Capitol today, I went through multiple cities, and you see signs in every city, stop ICE, ICE out. You see the names of those individuals who have died. And you recognize that everyone is feeling this moment in a deep and profound, dark place that we are at as a country. So we are here, united as a legislature, to let everyone know that we will not accept this to be the norm, that California will continue to do what California has always done, which is step up, speak out, and take action and lead in a moment in time where the federal government is taking us to one of our darkest points in history. This is not who we are, and it is not who we will be. We stand here in solidarity. And we will do everything we can as a legislature, as lawmakers, as humans to care, to protect, and to fight for those values and those individuals who are at the forefront of protecting communities. Thank you all for being here. I now want to welcome Assemblymember Pilar Schiavio.
Good afternoon. My name is Pilar Schiavio, Assemblywoman for North LA County, and on behalf of the Legislative Women's Caucus, We are sending our deepest love to Alex Preddy's parents, his loved ones, his colleagues, and his community, and to all of the mothers and children and families being traumatized and harmed by the current President Trump's ICE agents. We grieve with you. Women wear many hats. I'm also the chair of the Assembly and Military and Veteran Affairs Committee. I'm the proud daughter of a disabled veteran, and I'm a former nurse advocate, and I'm a mother. Every piece of me was crushed when we witnessed the killing of VA registered nurse Alex Preddy. I'm forever grateful for nurses like Alex, who saved my dad's life more times than I can count. After 13 years of working alongside nurses, I know this without ever even meeting him. I know Alex had a big heart. I know that he was a fierce advocate for his patients, because that is what nurses do. They care for people. They're helpers. So of course, Alex protected a woman as she was pushed down to the ground by immigration agents. Of course, he showed up to document the inhumane way that immigration agents are treating people in the streets of Minneapolis, even after he was pepper sprayed. Of course, he showed up because nurses are protectors. Trump's federal government is lying to us. They are not taking criminals. They are not going after the worst of the worst. Instead of making us safer, ICE agents are endangering our communities and making immigration enforcement more challenging. In Los Angeles, it is day 234 since Trump first sent ICE to our city, terrorizing and separating families and children, violating the foundational rights of our nation that it was built upon, and killing citizens in the street. This does not create safety, and we will not be silent. Now is the time to raise your voice. Now is the time to support your neighbors and peacefully protest. We could end this together, but it will take all of us. And we will keep showing up for each other, just like Alex Preddy, who showed up for veterans in his community. And like the thousands of Minnesotans and Angelenos and people across this country who are fighting for the survival of all families, of the United States of America, and for our Constitution, which so many, just like my dad, and now Alex Preddy, have sacrificed so much for. I will now introduce Sean Conway, registered nurse at UC Davis Medical Center and a California Nurses Association and National Nurses United member.
Good afternoon. My name is Sean Conway, and I'm an intensive care unit nurse with UC Davis Medical Center and a proud union member of California Nurses Association. As nurses, we make it our mission to care for, protect the dignity of, and save human lives. We are outraged by the ongoing unchecked violence of immigration officers across the country. Immigration enforcement agencies pose a dire public health threat to all of our communities. 2 days ago, these extremists horrifyingly executed in the street one of our nurses, Alex Preddy, who honored and cared for veterans as an intensive care unit nurse at the Veterans Health Administration. Alex was fulfilling his calling as a nurse by protecting his community against ICE violence, terror, and lawlessness. Nurses stand in solidarity with the people of Minnesota and their demand for the immediate abolition of ICE. No nurse should be murdered in cold blood for simply standing up to protect their community. Thank you. I'll pass it off to Senator Ana Caballero.
Good afternoon. Let me be absolutely clear. ICE's actions are illegal, deprive citizens and non-citizens of their constitutional rights, and most recently have murdered peaceful demonstrators. Say their name, Alex Preddy and Renee Good. Both had the opportunity and the right to disagree with what ICE was doing and to say so. We stand in solidarity with them and Minnesotans who are in mourning, and we mourn with you. We are angry, we are heartbroken, and we are resolute. What we are witnessing is an abuse of power. Federal agents are terrorizing communities, traumatizing children, using a 5-year-old to get to their parents. Can you think of a worse scenario? They are detaining Americans and tearing families apart. California, Illinois, Minnesota, and Oregon have all been used as test grounds for mass detention agendas that are reckless, discriminatory, and cruel. That is the truth, and we will not look away. But hear me clearly. The goal is chaos. Chaos as justification to deploy the military against civilians, to silence lawyers and escalate these raids even further. We will not give them an excuse. Our power is to stay peaceful and to protest, which is our right. Document the abuses and report misconduct. The good thing is that there's video that shows exactly what happened, despite the lies told by the federal administration.
That's right.
No one is above the law, including federal agents. California has created a public reporting portal so people can submit photos and videos and help build a record that will lead to accountability. California law is clear. Our state and local law enforcement do not participate in these raids. We are funding legal help so people can stand before a judge instead of being shot, detained, or disappearing. This moment is painful, but it is not hopeless. We protect each other by staying calm, informed, and united. We support our immigrant neighbors, and we demand congressional action. We will keep faith with the values that built this state, honoring diversity, equity, and inclusion for all, including our immigrant brothers and sisters. Californians will not surrender our conscience nor our moral code. We will stand strong together and with the rest of the country. Thank you for being here today. Next, I'd like to introduce Assemblymember Liz Ortega.
Good morning. I'm Assemblymember Liz Ortega, representing District 20. I'm also the Vice Chair of the Latino Caucus. We cannot accept what is happening.
All right, once again, folks, you've been listening into leadership within the California Assembly. As you heard, many of them, they were expressing their support for folks who are protesting in Minnesota in the wake of the federal agent shooting of ICU nurse Alex Preddy. We're going to take a quick break here. We'll be back. We've got this feed going. We've got a couple others that we're watching. We know weather is a big headline, not just for our area, but for other communities around the nation. So we may be checking in with that as well when we return in about 2 minutes. All right, welcome back, everyone, to Live Impact News. Wanted to quickly get you an update from the Charlotte area as we continue to watch the lingering weather impacts from the winter storm that we had this past weekend. Just got this update from CATS Transit Agency saying that it will resume limited service tomorrow starting at 8 o'clock in the morning. They do say that the services are set to end at midnight, and the last Blue Line train is set to leave UNC Charlotte and I-45 at midnight specifically. There will be some amendments to the services. However, just as we've seen over the weekend, Gold Line and Express Bus service is suspended. Blue Line will operate on its regular frequency, and buses will operate, but there could be some detours. As we mentioned before, throughout the weekend, you can always check in with the CATS Pass app to see the very latest and if there are any changes to your route. But some good news in the sense that we seem to start to get towards more normalcy as tomorrow comes around. Of course, we'll update you if we hear anything different or things change. We'll go ahead and turn now to other communities. As we mentioned, this has been a regional event. We've been hearing from multiple states, multiple cities dealing with the impacts of the winter storm. So we've been seeing some updates out of Louisiana, which we'll get to in a second if we can, because I think we just dropped that feed. Let's go to Virginia right now. Just hearing the governor, Abigail Spanberger, is set to get a briefing from DOT crews on what they're doing. Let's listen in.
And certainly, I would just say thank you to everybody who's been working for years to be prepared for an event such as this.
And if anyone else has anything else to add before we go outside?
Any questions for them?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Maybe can you step up?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, good job.
That's all right. That's all right.
Can you just maybe talk a little bit more about what we're seeing right now, and also going into tonight, into tomorrow morning as well?
So we've done really well. If you think about it, yesterday at this time we were still having falling weather. We're less than 24 hours after the event, and our interstates are largely clear. Our primary roads are largely in a very minor condition or clear, which is a remarkable achievement. Lots of good people doing lots of good work. Today we were very fortunate due to great temperatures and good favorable weather conditions that we were able to start moving into the secondary system. In our more populated counties, that means moving into the subdivision. So we've started to make some progress into that part of our network. So going forward, what we expect is that we'll be in a posture that we'll be monitoring the temperatures, and we'll be really particular about how we're working. That with the exceedingly low temperatures we have, our traditional methods of snow removal are not going to be very applicable. It's going to be so cold that your chemicals will not work. So we're going to have to be very judicious about how we utilize our resources and take advantage of those better weather days, meaning from sun up to sundown. So have more focused efforts during the daytime hours to really make good production and good progress. So what we'll see overnight, as the governor said, anything that's wet today will likely be frozen overnight. We're going to continue to encourage those motorists to slow down, pay attention, all those things. We're going to be in a response mode for those freezing locations, just to be monitoring. If necessary, we'll apply abrasives, which may provide a little bit of traction for the motorist if we perhaps had a bridge deck or something that was becoming impassable or something of that nature. So really our effort's going to focus on maintenance during the overnight period, but then really kind of into an assertive mode in the morning when the weather comes up and the temperature comes up, and hopefully the sun comes out tomorrow, and we'll be able to continue to make progress further into the secondary system and into the neighborhoods.
Thank you, guys.
Can you tell us any timeline on when you think those people who are waiting for their neighborhoods to be cleared?
So I would say that we would really, our goal really is to have touched every road within 48 hours of the end of the event. So I would say tomorrow they should at least see some activity. So I want to caution residents to be thinking that we do have a hard pack of ice. So around Metro Richmond, we probably had 2-3 inches of snow plus sleet on top of that, which has now essentially become a 4 or 5 inch hard pack that takes mechanical means or a lot of chemical work to go out. So our goal is to get roads passable, which means a motor operating reasonably can navigate the road. I would not expect that at some point we will get to bare pavement, but we really want to focus on getting it passable so that folks can get in and out of their neighborhood safely.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, and there you have it, folks. We'll take another quick break here. As we mentioned, other communities are giving briefings on their winter storm response, so we hope to return with Louisiana in 2 minutes. All right, welcome back, everyone, to Live Impact. As we mentioned, we've been covering how various areas around the Southeast are recovering after the weekend winter storm. We've got officials in Louisiana right now speaking. Let's go ahead and listen in.
Propane, oil, and methane. The risk primarily is from when we're seeing generators being used in or very close to the home. So in the death that we reported today, the gentleman succumbed to carbon monoxide poisoning because the generator was running inside of a garage. Garage is not far enough away from the home to run it safely. It must be very clear, at least 20 feet away from the home to run your generator safely. With the number of power outages that we have right now, again, I'm imploring everyone that's using generators outside the house at least 20 feet away. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about where we're at with water systems. We track and regulate, monitor, and help water systems around the state. And to put where we're at today in context, we have 48 systems that are affected. That's either outages or boil water advisories. In 2021, the ice event, we had around 400 systems that were impacted. In 2025, last year for the snow event, it was 150. And as I mentioned, today we're at 48. But given the cold weather that we're expecting to see, we expect those numbers to go a little bit higher. If you go to get a game plan, you will see tips on ways to make sure that your home is safe. You're protecting pipes, again, one of the 4 Ps. And we want to make sure that you keep the water in your home safe. And again, our local officials are doing a great job of keeping water systems up and running at the local level. That's all I've got for now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Brandon Prime, Secretary with the Public Service Commission. I think y'all can see the map over here as well. That's our utility outage map, current as of noon today. So I'm going to give y'all some numbers of where we peaked as a state, but also per utility, where we are now as of noon. Those numbers are dropping even as I'm doing the report. So we reported a total peak outage late last night, I guess yesterday afternoon, of about 151,000. However, That didn't account for some of the utilities who lost power earlier and brought it back on before the peak occurred in the northeastern part of the state. And the outages went from southwest to northeast as the rain moved through. So we actually had a total peak of 175,000. Utility-specific, Beauregard Electric, which would be in Vernon and Beauregard Parish, peaked at about 3,700. They're 100% restored now. Claiborne Electric in Claiborne Parish peaked at 650. I've got 187 now. Cleco, which would be Grant, Natchitoches, Red River, I guess parts of Wynn as well, that central part of the state peaked at 23,900. They're down to about 5,100. Concordia, which is in not just Concordia, but a little bit of Catahoula and LaSalle as well, peaked at 2,600. They're at 1,500 now. Energy, which has the Ouachita, Jackson, Wynn, and then up into Richland, the West and East Carroll parishes, where we had the most icing, peaked at about 92,000. We're at about 84,000 now. Northeast Power, which is in, I think, mainly Morehouse, but they come down a little bit into Richland as well, peaked at 8,000, and they're at 7,400. Again, the areas where we saw the most icing are having the slowest restoration. Panola Harrison, which is in DeSoto and Sabine, peaked at 2,600, and they're about 1,000 now. And finally, Swepco, which is Caddo, Bossier, Webster, down into Red River, DeSoto, peaked at about 42,500, and they're about 24,500 now. So the total number is down to about 120,000, as the governor said, from that peak of 175. When we spoke last year during the hurricane, I like to look at historical events for comparison purposes to put these numbers into perspective. So for Hurricane Francine, we peaked at 400,000. We had two severe weather events when the governor first started. You remember those in April and May of 24. One of those was 208,000. So we actually, from a one-day severe weather event, it occurred peak outages considerably higher than what we're seeing here. That doesn't mean it's going to be easier for the restoration. Obviously, there are struggles here that we don't see in those type of outages. You've heard about the road issues. We can't thank DOTD enough. There's been incredible coordination, Glenn, with all the utilities clearing the roads, and that's where the issues are coming from. This is the large majority of the damage that we're seeing from every utility is tree damage. Trees are taking down lines. Trees that are weighted down from the ice are falling into the existing right-of-ways and taking the lines down with them. I do have some general restoration times for the three major utilities, which would be Cleco, Swepco, and Energy. Cleco is anticipating the bulk of its system being totally restored tomorrow. There's going to be a lot coming on tonight, but that's the best case scenario. I say best case. That's actually a little bit of a conservative estimate. Swepco also anticipates the majority to be restored tomorrow. Some will linger into Wednesday, predominantly in that Red River, DeSoto, Natchitoches area. And Energy is also anticipating about 90% by Wednesday. All of these utilities are going to be providing us some more granular analysis. It typically takes time for them to get out there and do their assessments. So as we get those assessments, we'll be able to push out parish by parish specific information. We are going to work with LDH and ensure that any of these warming shelters that need power or any additional locations are put on the priority list. And finally, for more granular update for Energy and some of the concerns, I know the governor alluded to this about power coming on, and winter is a little bit different than from a hurricane because of the heat strain that puts on the system from a heater. And while you'll have some outages go back out, but Philip will explain that in Energy's restoration efforts as well.
Thank you, Brandon. Good afternoon. I'm Philip Bay, President of Entergy Louisiana. First, I want to make sure we clarify what the anticipated restorations are. We are planning to have 90% of our customers that have access, where access issues are not a challenge, and that's primarily along the I-20 corridor, for instance, Ouachita Parish, 90% on Wednesday. For those customers that we're having challenges on access and more severe damage, we anticipate having 90% of our customers restored by Thursday. I just want to emphasize 90% means that most of those customers will be restored before that. It also means that some customers will linger on into a few more days if they have very significant damage. And those customers that have damage to their home, they have to be able to take power, so you may need an electrician because the vegetation has pulled weatherhead and some of the electric equipment away from home. I want to note on the cold load pickup issue. Following a hurricane, there's oftentimes very big gains we can have right after a hurricane because once you clear the line, you can turn the power back on and it gets rolling right away. In the winter, when you have extreme load conditions, you have to do things on a sectional basis. So we will go sometimes block by block, put a section on, we wait until the appliances come on, the heaters come on, make sure that that fuse holds, then move on to the next section. So the point of that is you won't see these big chunks of load coming on like you see after a hurricane. It's going to be slow, it's going to be methodical, but we do have people out there that are actively working the process. We have seen extreme damage due to ice accumulation, particularly in that corridor along the I-20 and then moving up to that northeast portion of the state. We have seen evidence of ice accumulation as great as 1 inch or greater, and that has created a lot of challenges for our system. We do appreciate Secretary Ledet and the cooperation we've had with the DOTD because that's an important factor on gaining that access so we can get to those places where we see the damage and make repairs. Entergy has a force of 3,300 people working on the storm and will continue to work until all power is restored. Governor?
Okay, just to wrap this up, first of all, for everyone in Louisiana, pipes, pits, plants, and people, make sure you're checking on your neighbors. A couple of major takeaways. We really would like to not have anyone else die of carbon monoxide poisoning or anyone lose life or property due to fires. If you are using supplemental heat, if you're using an electric heater or a gas furnace, or again 3 to 5 feet, that means this much from tip to tip. Look at it, say, okay, here's my heating source. Is there anything nearby that could catch on fire this far away from here to here? That will help you. We want you all to stay safe. If you're in Central and North Louisiana, I would again urge you to stay off the roads. Those of you in South Louisiana, I think all of our roads are open and are pretty much safe. At night, it's going to dip into the freezing, a hard freeze, as Jay said. So in the morning, when you get on the road, just use a little extra caution. Don't get in a hurry. The state offices are going to open tomorrow except for those in Central and North Louisiana. So again, the morning commute, take your time. I don't think anyone's going to punish anyone for a little tardiness tomorrow. Be very careful on the roadways. But again, I would urge you, take precaution when supplementing heat. If you're in North Louisiana and you do not have power, and you also do not have heat, you need to find somewhere to go. Don't think, oh, the power may just come on at midnight. It is dangerously cold over the next couple of nights. Find somewhere warm to go. So again, I want to thank all of the citizens who've listened to us and helped to stay off the roadways. I want to thank all of the local and state employees who've been working around the clock. I know it's cold out there. We really do appreciate it. I know our citizens appreciate it. It's what's going to help us get the power on as quickly as possible. I want to thank our utility companies for marshaling the resources necessary to try to get power to our citizens as quickly as possible. Also, let's be patient with the power. As Philip explained to you, it takes time to bring those loads on. With that, we'll take any questions anyone might have. Yes, sir.
So I have a question about cars. So I learned today that if you turn on a car when it's freezing and someone immediately puts the defroster by the windshield on very high, it could actually cause the windshield to maybe crack. Could someone kind of speak about what's the best way to do that?
Well, I would think that warming your car up, I'll probably get myself in trouble. No days you go outside, you turn the car on, and you kind of let it just warm up real slowly, and then you come back and you get in the car and you can drive away. That's That's what I would tell you, especially if you've got ice on your windshield. You know, if you give yourself a little extra time, I think getting up in the morning, turning your car on, you know, kind of slowly turning it, let it just warm up, and then making your way on the roadway is probably the best way to do it, because again, you could have some ice accumulation on your windshield. Again, you want to make sure the defroster works. It's going to be, I appreciate that question, bitterly cold, so that windshield is extremely cold as well. Yes, ma'am.
I know your focus right now is weather, but could you give an update on border control operations across the state of Louisiana, specifically Cabarrus County, and where that stands?
Yeah, look, right now we're focused on making sure that people are safe. We're making sure that people get power back on. We are making sure that we clear our roadways. Right now, the safety of the citizens in the state are my top priority.
We're only taking on-topic questions, so. Can you clarify how many hypothermia deaths there have been? Was it 4 or 5?
Bruce is 2.
Well, we've confirmed 2 so far, and they've been reported already, and we're tracking. There are 3 additional deaths that we're tracking. And it appears that from the coroners that an additional.
All right, and folks, we'll try to return to this feed just as soon as we're able to, but it is time for a quick break here. We'll be back in 2 minutes. All right, back here in the Live Impact News studio, I'm Vanessa Rufus. We've been listening in on a briefing with Louisiana officials talking about winter storm response. They are still taking questions. Looks like the governor is about to take a question.
Your systems they're out, and do you have an idea of where they are?
I can't explain the degree to which water is out for the entire parish, but I do know that we're working with St. Francis Hospital right now, which is experiencing a loss of water pressure, and this is not an internal system issue as it's being reported, but there's a city issue. And so we're tracking it very closely and supplying as much assistance as we can, but we're hoping that within an hour we'll have restored water pressure within the hospital, and then I hope that that extends to the rest of the parish.
And Judy, that's actually a great question on topic. Because here's why. It is really a great question. It's something that citizens should be aware of. As pipes thaw out, right, and we start to recognize both residential and utility water pipes, we'll see where they failed, right? So right now, if they're frozen, we don't know if they're going to leak. But as it thaws out, they'll start to leak, which will bring the water pressure down, which could create all advisories or could create low pressure problems as well. And so that is something that we should be prepared for throughout the duration of this event.
All right, last one. Can you talk about, you're looking for an emergency declaration from the White House. What does that allow for? Are you hoping for any financial reimbursement?
Yeah, look, we're in discussions with FEMA. We recognize, as one of the questions alluded to Oxford, Mississippi, and the damage over in Mississippi, which is similar to the northeast section of the state as well. We're seeing, and what we anticipate is huge debris fields that need to be cleaned up. A lot of vegetation has gone down. And so we would need to add to the current declaration that the President has already extended to us, which we are very grateful to both him and Secretary Noem. FEMA has been on the phone with us consistently, but we're going to be urging them to extend that to a major declaration, which would really give us some reassurance that as we start to remove the amount of debris, because some of these parishes are extremely rural parishes that are going to need some help. And so we're going to be working with FEMA and the White House for that. I'm sure that Governor Reeves over in Mississippi is going to do the same, and Bill Lee up in Tennessee as well. Okay. All right. Thank you. Stay safe and warm.
All right, with that briefing wrapping up, we just want to talk about a few updates we just got here in the Live Impact News studio regarding winter impacts kind of lingering here in the Charlotte area. We've just learned that CMS is going remote learning on Tuesday. We've also got reports from Iredell Statesville schools, remote learning Tuesday. And we are seeing that Watauga County schools will be closed, so flat out closed on Tuesday, just because of all the snow and ice-covered roadways that they're seeing right now. As we get more any sort of closures or schedule amendments, we'll keep you updated. We'll take another quick break, folks, and we'll be back with more Live Impact in 2 minutes. All right, and we are back here in the Live Impact News studio, hearing today from students in Minnesota as we continue to see a lot of headlines coming out of the city of Minneapolis following this recent shooting of ICU nurse Alex Preddy. We've got students who are speaking on ICE operations and how they feel this is impacting them. Let's listen in.
And in our city. And I want to speak personally. I came to this country legally. When I was 3 months old, I was sponsored by a Lutheran church here that I'm deeply indebted to and grateful to. One of the reasons why I'm a divinity student here today. And I still walk around with my passport. I have it right in my left pocket right here. Not because I've done anything wrong, because I'm just black enough, I'm just brown enough, and I look just foreign enough to wonder how I will be seen as a threat when I enter a room. And that is a feeling many people in the city are living with right now. I saw a post this week that asked a simple question. People keep asking, what was he doing at the scene? Referring to the late Alex Peretti. And the answer was, the scene is our homes, the scene is our neighborhoods, the scene is our businesses. Are we not supposed to live? Because this did not happen in some distant place. It happened where people raise their children, where they go to work, where they pray, and where they live ordinary lives. Our eyes do not lie about what people experience in moments like this. People in this community say they witnessed Alex Peretti lose his life in front of them, just as this city and this country have witnessed the deaths of Renee Good, of George Floyd, of Oscar Grant, and of Breonna Taylor. Different cities, different moments, and the same question that keeps coming back: who is accountable when life is taken? In a public interview after the shooting, Border Patrol Chief Greg Bravino was asked whether his comments sounded like he was blaming the victim. According to the interview, he responded by saying to the correspondent at CNN that the victims were the border agents. The victim was ICE. Not the man that lost his life, not the man that was murdered, not the man that was killed, but ICE themselves. As a person of faith, I believe that every life carries dignity. As a civil rights leader, I believe that every system must answer when that dignity is violated. And as a resident of the city, I believe that Minneapolis is capable of more than silence and caution and being told to protest peacefully in moments like this. So I'm asking our city leadership plainly and publicly, where do you stand when your residents are afraid in their own neighborhoods? We have heard what the city cannot do. We have heard what is outside of their authority. What people are still wondering to hear is, what is this city willing to stand for? Minneapolis has moved before, Minneapolis has led before, and this moment is asking it to move again. We have a few people that are going to be speaking with us, and I'll introduce them throughout the press conference here today. But first, we have our executive director, Jaylani Hussein.
Jaylani I'm the executive director for the Council on American Islamic Relations Minnesota chapter. We are here again, nearly a week and a half. We were standing right here demanding justice for Renee Good. What we have seen and have learned from the murder of Renee Good is that the federal government lies. The federal government lied about the murder of Renee Good. They lied about everything related to the matter of the murder of Renee Good. What we have seen since the murder of Renee Good is that the federal government will refuse, and is at this moment refusing, to even investigate the murder of Renee Good. We have seen, nearly a week after the murder of Renee Good, the shooting of Jose, who was also in North Minneapolis. And not even 10 days after that, they have killed and murdered Alex Peretti. What we have seen, even though all of us should have known, is that immediately after the murder of Alex Peretti, they once again lied about everything related to the murder of Alex Peretti. What we know at this moment is this attack, assault, this siege of our neighborhood by these federal agencies is nothing more than a political retribution against Minnesota, against our nation, and against many who did not vote for this president. This is an attack on our democracy, and it's an attack on the way of life. Our neighbors are waking up every single morning with the screams and the beeping of cars and people with whistles howling to their neighbors to stay inside, that they are outside. What we have noticed and have seen is that these untrained unintelligent bandits that have attacked our streets are not de-escalating anything. If you remember and you see that video once again, you will notice that Alex was actually just helping a woman who was physically shoved to almost nearly hitting her head in the bumper of that car. And as he is there, they are literally attacking this woman, and the only thing that Alex is doing is trying to stop the attack of ICE agents to this vulnerable woman. That was what he was doing. And instead, they grabbed him, and because they are untrained, undisciplined bandits who also came here to murder people, because the president and the vice president have told them that they have immunity. And I'm going to come back to that. They began to not only target him, to violently beat him, and to violently kill him. They did not even know where they were shooting at. And we see